Foghorn.
Okay, seeing quorum. I don't know if my mic is on. No?
I hear it's on.
Okay. Seeing quorum, the chair opens up the Wednesday, August 3rd meeting of the Mashpee Planning Board being held here in the Wacoyet Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North, Mashpee, Massachusetts at 7 o'clock. This agenda had been amended on August 1st, and the amendment is so noted. First order of business, I invite all to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is the review of minutes from July 20th, 2022.
I make a motion we approve that.
I seconded.
Is there any other comments? Is there any comments or corrections? Seeing none, all who approve the minutes as presented say aye.
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 Anyone abstain? Anybody negative? Okay. Great, thank you. Only 22 pages. Come on, we can do better than that. All right. Next item is new business, vote to nominate a representative to the Harbor Management Committee at the request of the Department of Natural Resources. I think this is a new committee, and it does not have like a meeting schedule preset. So once people are convened in the meeting, then you'll determine what's convenient for you to meet. So is there anybody interested in joining that committee?
I wouldn't mind participating. I don't have I'm not out there on a boat all the time, but
I don't really care. Matt, you like it?
it's up, I'm open, let's put it that way.
That's great. Would somebody like to nominate
You kill a lot of
Michael?
boat people and stuff too, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I know Chris pretty well, and
Yeah.
so, but I'm more than happy to participate.
I nominate Mike Richardson as a representative to the Harbor Management Committee.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. That's great.
You said that through Alice.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's going to be, we'll have to put that on as update, you know? Yeah.
Yep, on committee and board reports. Sure.
Okay, then we have a request for covenant release at the subdivision known as Casper Circle from Stephen and Joyce Hines.
So, the Hineses are not here, but I have been in communication with the consulting engineer relative to the subdivision. The subdivision is over there off of Lowell Road and Old Barnstable Road, gets its access from a portion of Great Hay Road. You reapproved the subdivision in 2005 after its original approval back in 1973. The engineer had certified to me that the drainage structures are in, base course of pavement is down. The remaining work at the subdivision is loam and seeding of the shoulders, top course of asphalt, road monuments. And then Ed, in an email to me dated today, had suggested a few other items such as an as-built survey and plan, pump out and cleaning of debris and sediment catch basins. He noted street trees, but there are no street trees in the subdivision plan. Final inspections, et cetera. The Hineses had noted a dollar value of $36,000 to complete these final improvements. Ed had asked for a bid document from Lawrence Lynch to certify the actual cost of the top course of pavement, which they did provide today. It's in your package. That cost was $31,318.96. So in consideration of the cost estimates provided by Ed for the remaining line items, the $39,000 does cover it. And so I would suggest a security of $58,500 customary with the additional 50% you normally include at that base price.
So you take the 39,000 and you multiply it by 1.5.
By 0.5. Well, excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
And then it came out to 58,000?
500.
550?
$58,500.
Okay.
And so I would ask that the board set that as the security and we'll release the money.
With the,
Surety?
with the $68,500
58.
58.
security.
58,500 surety.
Yeah.
That good? Is there a second?
I'll say second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
And so, Mary, with your approval, this will stay on the agenda, and I'll prepare the release documentation for the next meeting after we take the check-in.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm just curious, is it common to release the company prior to getting that work done?
So what they're, that's why we,
It's all expensive these days, right?
that's right. So the board just established the price for security to release the lots. So the town is going to take in either cash for the total amount you've just established, or they can go to, or they, the developer, can go to an insurance company to get a performance bond for the total amount. So if they default in their obligations to complete the work as required by the plan approved by the board, we have a security in place to complete the work in accordance with the approved plans. So we wouldn't release the lots without some other security in place. So that's what we're doing here.
No, I understand, I'm just saying, it seems premature to release it even with a bond at this point, but I'm just curious, I didn't know. how-
Well, generally, the covenants are released after the binder course goes down, prior to the construction of homes, because they're going to be bringing in heavy equipment, construction vehicles on that binder course, and so they don't want to put the top course on and tear it apart. So generally, this drainage goes in, the base course of pavement, even generally maybe some landscaping, loam and seed, and then they go and build the houses, finish the road, and then they'll get their
I'm
money.
good, I was just curious about how the process works. Thank you.
You betcha.
Okay. Next item, report on request for tree removal at Chime Condominiums.
You want me to read it?
You go for it.
Okay. This was a report generated as a result of going to Chime Point for a tree inspection on July 27th. I and Evan Lair, at the request of Ms. Karen Kingsley, board member of the Chime Point Condominium Association, inspected a number of trees proposed for removal at Chime Point behind the unit addressed at 56 Gold Leaf Lane due to safety concerns. The inspection took place beginning at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, July 27, 2022. The vice chair, that is me, and town planner, Evan Lair, were accompanied by Ms. Kingsley, Mr. Ed Ledwith, he's the owner of 56 Gold Leaf, I think it's Gold Leaf.
It is, my
Yeah,
bad.
Gold Leaf Lane, and other residents, board members of Chime. Mr. Ledwith, along with an arborist, had marked a number of trees for discussion generally located behind his unit at 56 Gold Leaf Lane. None of the trees appeared to be dead or diseased or otherwise in poor health. However, Mr. Ledwith noted that over the winter in a severe storm event, large limbs from one of the identified trees fell and severely damaged the deck. This tree shows in photo 1 attached to this report, which is a mature scrub pine or oak that looms in close proximity to 56 Gold Leaf Lane. I might add that part of that tree, one of the limbs fell down and hit his deck and knocked over, according to him, although the work was repaired. We didn't see it, but, we trust that that's what happened. He had to replace the banister and siding. It was determined that the tree constituted an obvious threat to the safety of residents or a serious damage to structures, and that it may be removed on the condition that it be replaced by a relatively mature tree of native species in a location to be determined by the arborist where it can be expected to thrive. So what I learned is you don't have to replace the tree exactly there. You can place it anywhere on the property which is suitable based on what the arborist says. The town planner noted to Mr. Ledwith that large native shrubs could be considered to replace the tree, in the general vicinity of its removal. The planner requested that the species selected and planting site be identified in writing and submitted to the planning office. A list of suitable native trees species was provided. Additionally, I determined that another tree marked by Mr. Ledwith, an arborist, could be removed due to the potential threat to safety and serious damage to the structures. This tree shown in photo 2 attached. This was a relatively healthy and mature tree growing toward the sun and thus leaning out over the condominium unit and attached deck. I authorize its removal under the same conditions as above, replaced with a suitable native species in a location to be determined by the arborist. End of report.
Excellent. I take a motion to accept the report of the vice chair? Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I
recognize you.
To accept, are we going to have discussion?
If you would like discussion, go right
yeah.
ahead.
Part of the agreement, where or how will a tree be removed, or is it going to be fell in place as?
It's going to be up to the arborist how they want to remove the tree exactly. I think, well, if I don't know exactly what the plan is, but normally they come up the tree and they start bringing it down without, they don't fell the whole thing. It can be done safely.
Over there, they're gonna have to go up and chop
Yeah,
chop
they're
it
gonna-
down.
Yeah,
Too close to
well,
the building.
if it was on near conservation lands, a lot of times they want you to fall the tree and just leave it rot
Yeah.
Yes.
versus removing it completely.
Right.
And
It is is it near conservation land or is that?
Relatively, we pulled the plan with us, but it's probably 100, 200 feet to the boundary of the portion of the parcel that
So-
was deeded to the Conservation Commission in accordance with the wind chime approval back in the late 80s.
Yeah.
You know, I
But
have no
I should
problem
note-
either way, but the arborists or the conservation people might
I should note that.
differ on that in saying, one should fall it and leave it, and one says, oh yeah, I have a truck, we'll just put it on a truck and haul it away.
Yeah, I should note to the board that Mr. Ledwith did contact Conservation Department, who determined they had no jurisdiction to determine the tree, and they recommended that Mr. Ledwith and the association reach out to the planning board as they are required to do by their special
Would the
permit.
rule be that as long as the tree, if it were felled, could not touch or hit conservation land?
If the tree has to be within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission for them to determine what, if anything, happens
What's
to the
the
tree.
jury?
This was clearly not within a conservation
Okay.
Right.
jurisdiction, and thus, there are no, whether they remove it and grind the stump, or they fell it in place, the conservation has no jurisdiction to
I
determine.
think the fire department may not like that because it's more tender.
Yeah, tinder.
Tender.
We're having problems with overgrown.
I believe the anticipated course of action for the property owner is to remove it and grind the stump down. Maybe they'll leave the stump, but.
Oh, I just want to correct something that was said last time. Andrew McManus would never be the tree warden on the residential tree bylaw that I'm looking to do. He is only
The tree warden.
a tree warden for conservation and for if we ever had a public tree
Well, anything that's in the wetland jurisdiction.
in the
again.
wetlands, yes, is also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this matter?
The other question, comment I would have is, do we have a budget to make sure that Karen has the boots and hats and stuff to climb these trees?
Put those spikes on the boots. Get
I-
right up there, Karen.
I suppose I should note also that the board member, so the Wind Chime Association board members had asked if we could schedule like an annual or biannual visit, perhaps at the end of the winter and at the the end of the fall or something, as maybe a storm event brings trees down or dead or diseased trees become apparent. I said that would be no issue, just put together a schedule and submit it to the
That
planning board.
makes sense over there.
So there's a motion on the board,
I'd like a motion to accept the report of the vice chair.
so be.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed, abstaining? Okay. Lovely. Next item, old business, discussion of issues at Aquay Highland subdivision conditions of special permit relative to traffic. Any update?
Yeah, Ed and I did meet with the developer over on site shortly after our last meeting. Really, Ed wanted to go over in detail some of the issues related to the maintenance of the stormwater facilities, which he did, because 7 out of the 8 catch basins over there were plugged. They were clearing them, pumping them, maintaining them while we were on site. And Ed had some suggestions for mitigating these issues in the future. Developers seem generally amenable, but we'll want to continue to follow up and stay on him with regard to his recommendations. But they did reloam the slopes of the detention basins. Ed is okay with them waiting to hydro seed till the fall because the heat. And we did investigate a portion of the subdivision that's at the topmost portion of Blue Castle Drive where the new pavement ends, where there were existing houses, because one of the neighboring homes was dealing with some flooding issues in the front yard, and we weren't able to necessarily rule out that it was due to the failure of the catch basins because there's runoff still coming from the unfinished portion of Blue Castle Drive. So Ed and the developer agreed, Ed's going to go out during the next relatively substantial rain event to see what's happening, and he did make some suggestions to the developer about installing a new leaching catch basin at this location, so as to, just be neighborly. There was a little bit of pushback on that, and he's certainly not required to do it in accordance with the plan. But if Ed determines at the next rainfall that the failure of the catch basin, because the catch basin as it's currently installed as required by the plan is not at the lowest point of the new road. It kind of sits a little high up, so there could be potential for runoff to be carrying down the road more substantially than it should, creating those flooding issues. But also the home that is currently under construction next to this front yard that's been flooded is under construction. There's no lawn in place, so it's catching a lot of runoff from the unfinished lawn. So we anticipate that once a lawn is installed, and it's going to capture a lot of that rainfall, but further investigation is required. Ed is going to follow up independently with the developer, but we do see progress there, which is good. It's just, sometimes we kind of seem to have to stay on this particular developer.
Evan, I go up there a lot, look at those drains.
Yeah.
And last meeting, I told you there was a tree growing out of one.
Yeah.
And I went up the next day or something, and they cleaned everything up, and they put the
Filter
felt
fabric.
paper or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you guys take that off and look?
They did it while we were there.
All right.
We also figured out, I think, the grate nearest the home that was getting flooded, there was filter fabric in it. They hadn't changed it yet, and someone had gone in and poked holes through all of it. So it's not serving its purpose. Could be a neighbor who was upset that their yard kept getting flooded and wanted that drain to work better. Obviously couldn't be sure. What Ed wanted to see was proper silt sacks go in there instead of the filter fabric, so that, because they have handles on it,
Yeah.
where you can install it and actually remove it. And because what could happen with the filter fabric is that you take the grate off and it just plops right down into the catch basin. But they were maintaining them while we were on site. Ed has been following up. It's been slow progress, but some of the issues from a year ago are starting to be addressed now. There will be 3 more homes under construction at that subdivision.
Right.
We did also discuss the traffic-related issues. One was the flashing radar sign. The other was the stop signs at Gia and Tracy Lane, I believe. I do need to send a letter to the neighborhood because they need to petition the selectmen for the stop signs, and the developer is responsible for paying for and installing them if the petition is successful. So I will make that communication with the people who have submitted those complaints directly. The second issue is the radar sign. So if you recall, I want to say 2 years ago now, the planning board and the developer entered into a tripartite agreement to secure the remaining work in exchange for the release of the covenant, and they did secure the $3,000 payment.
Right.
But I suggested that given the nature of the complaints, it might be prudent to follow through on that obligation sooner rather than later. So we're going to continue having that discussion. The one thing I should note is that traffic mitigation I don't believe is necessarily going to benefit that neighborhood. It was a $3,000 cash payment for a radar sign to be installed somewhere by the DPW. Quite the echo. That's essentially the report. From my next steps are just to engage with the neighborhood relative to what they need to do to make sure those stop signs get installed. And Ed is dealing with the drainage and stormwater related issues.
Sounds good.
All right. Is there any public comment on that matter? Okay. Meeting with the EDIC on July 26th regarding redevelopment opportunities in Mashpee. So, in your packet, and it starts with this page that says proposed redevelopment sites. And then afterwards, there's maps. And, Dennis, I'm gonna give you my color ones, okay? Because I have some color ones at home. But anyways, Karen and I met with the EDIC on the 26th. It was their meeting, and we sat with them and talked about these lots and the possible development of a redevelopment bylaw for certain areas in town, certain maybe focusing in on a lot that we, have our eye on, maybe a whole little area. Priority was given by the town planner for areas that are scheduled to be sewered. So we might want to bring stuff online as sewering goes online, right? And places that are kind of like underutilized or older and they don't seem to be moving towards rehabilitation or improvement. So, you can have some incentives for these areas, like density, height, and what the town might want to ask for in return is a portion of any residential development would be affordable. A portion, what was it? And then, you might want to say, you have to have a superior architecture and site design. There's some, when you look through them, you can see that there's lots of lots together. Like, maybe you could have introduced shared parking, one curb cut, that kind of thing, especially the ones on 28, So they're kind of for us to kind of start pondering upon.
Yeah.
It might be something that we might want to put in the LCP as an action item and then continue on with our workshops and charrettes afterwards, because we love them so much. And,
Mary, wouldn't we want to know the proposal, the priority of proposals based on where the sewering, would be going? So we won't know that until we know it. So I guess this is just like a long-range plan at this point.
yeah, it's going to have to be coordinated with the sewer commission.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's definitely going to have to be, and you can set bylaws in motion and say, these become active when, right? Because we used to have that. Like, you can't take advantage of this unless you're hooked up to a public wastewater system.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what,
that makes sense.
OSID says that. I mean, you could put this on the books at an upcoming town meeting and just require that any development pursuant to the bylaw be connected to a private or public wastewater treatment facility.
I was thinking like at Dino's, that whole area.
Big lots.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could put an apartment, put a
Yes.
second floor?
It certainly would.
And then we're not looking for the other space.
Yeah, so I've suggested, there's two kind of outlooks here. Two of the maps are going to be more visual for you. There are two redevelopment areas that I consider redevelopment priorities that are kind of at a neighborhood scale. And it's really around Dino's on both sides of north and south of Route 151, and then around the barn and Polar Cave up to Cape Drive. Some of those facilities are relatively new construction. But if you have an opportunity to have real transformative development that meets a need, you want to put those standards in place that might incentivize a pattern of redevelopment in the future. Like some of those office buildings, for example, could be converted to apartments, no problem, or they could go away and something more substantial could be there. But I think things like certainly reduced shared parking, expedited permitting in exchange for an appropriate
Proffers.
mix of housing. You do want to see a mixture of income levels and housing diversity and commercial uses in these areas. And that's kind of what I have envisioned for these kind of neighborhood scales. The remaining ones are in both residential and commercial areas, however, are obviously underutilized or otherwise in need of some improvement. And there's no incentive currently to redevelop them because as we currently regulate and as they're situated, it's the highest and best use of the property. So some incentive or zoning change would be prudent to ensure that investment can happen on these particular properties from the private sector. So that's what I've suggested. And, it's not to say that this is the totality of what may or may not exist. I produced these for discussion purposes.
Well, you probably have this, but it would seem if you took these locations and just put together a list of criteria for each one and sort of number them in high, low, and then all of a sudden it jumps out at you as what seems to be more of a suitable next step. I don't know if that's what you were thinking of doing, but.
Yeah, I think, we'll get to this point certainly in charrettes, but if like things like architecture and site design are something we really want to consider.
you're busy.
I would recommend pursuing or contemplating form-based regulation for these neighborhood scales. And especially at this scale where we're not talking massive land area,
Yeah.
it might be a great opportunity for the board to consider a more innovative approach to land use regulation. So.
Do you happen to know what the acreage is on the 6-17 Cape Drive?
Oh, gosh, if I had forgotten to put it, I'll have to look it up, Karen.
Is it a lot? Because I'm not familiar with that one
It's, so these Cape Drive properties is the totality of
Yeah.
these areas here.
in this.
So I don't know, I will need to
That's
follow
a
up with
nice,
you.
looks like a big piece.
It's a nice, you could do a nice mixed-use commercial development there. It's obviously not overly substantial. But you can certainly beautify the area, provide the same or enhanced commercial opportunity while meeting the housing need that we have, or at least contributing to the housing need that we have.
So what's the next steps?
I wanted to kind of share with you where my mind is at and provide some response to the EDIC. I think these would be relatively substantial zoning changes, especially if I can motivate you all to consider a form-based code for these areas. But I think ultimately, if redevelopment of these areas becomes a priority and is something that's supported by the community, certainly by the community engagement we've been doing for the past, how long has it been, 5 months or so, we will want to further engage with public charrettes to determine what scale, what building type, what uses might be of interest to the community and regulate form or use, if we want to stick with something more conventional, would be amenable to the community.
I think the next step, besides putting it in the LCP as an action item, is to reach out to all these property owners with a general survey, like, kind of like, are you, do you contemplate redeveloping this
Or
property?
would you contemplate?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, what are your plans,
Yeah.
right? Are you going to let it sit as it is, or did you want to explore something else? And if you could do what's your dream for your property? What barriers are you experiencing? It might be zoning, it might not be. It might be something else.
Yeah, and it might give us information about we can't go there or no way going there. Yeah,
Right.
we should move forward with something. Yeah.
So I think, I would love to see this kind of, another like little section on our webpage kind of devoted to this.
Sure.
Get these up there and out. But we might want to give a heads up to the property owners before we do that, because
No.
we don't want to.
Yeah, right away.
Hopefully they're all watching tonight, but
I mean, yeah, that's right.
right, we don't want to make them feel that we're forcing them into something that they don't want.
What I can see, though, people be worried about the traffic. Like if we did something at Dino, there'd be too much, just when we put that paint store in, they were concerned about
Right.
too much traffic. But if you had apartment buildings,
But if you figured out some with the clever traffic engineer, right? And the Cape Cod Commission can help with that, but if we reconfigured those curb cuts, do you know what I mean?
Consolidate curb
Or
cuts.
improved a nearby intersection, it might all fall into place.
Yeah. And I just,
Just because we could, like, if we got a substantial amount of affordable housing out of it, it might be worth it, you know? But I know what you mean.
Unless you're a neighbor saying,
Right.
oh my, it's gonna
Yeah,
be
but
hard
I
to get
guess it
out.
makes sense to find out what they're thinking, because that gives us a lead on what to do next.
and, just obviously,
Good report.
any particular zoning change doesn't compel a property owner or require them to do anything. If anything, hopefully via the process, we create opportunity and value in their property, whether if they're sitting and not using it, or whether they want to redevelop themselves, or they now have an opportunity to sell it and transfer it to somebody who does want to do something with it. That would meet a community need. That would be the intent here.
The other thing I'd like to do is for us to compile current bylaws from other towns on the Cape that kind of do this. So Falmouth had that affordable housing bylaw where they took busy intersections and are allowing density and height for a significant amount of affordable housing. And not all the areas they targeted at first were, agreed upon. Like, there were some neighborhoods and some areas of town that said no. But like, I know that East Falmouth said yes.
Yeah.
So there's that one. Maybe you can get us a couple of example bylaws where this happens.
Alex, actually, he's finalizing it. He's on his way back to Florida, but on top of everything else Alex was doing, I had him prepare a compilation, if you will, of case studies of exactly this type of redevelopment. He's going to finalize that, and I'll provide some comment to him, but I would love to present his report to you as a launching point, and then we can look at what's happening in Massachusetts thereafter.
Right. I kind of, I want to look at the bylaws that the AG has
Yeah, so we
passed.
can
You know what
see
I
it.
mean? Like, I want to use what other towns have gotten past their town meeting and gotten the AG to say, yes, this is okay. So we can be,
But-
it's the worst thing in the world when you work so hard, you get something passed at town meeting and then the AG goes, oh, you missed something,
But like Karen said in the beginning, all this comes if we have a sewer system in
Yes.
place.
Right, 'cause
This ain't gonna work,
that'll be a huge barrier if we're adding to the nitrogen
yeah,
load.
Yep.
But Evan already picked places that are supposed to, yeah. It's exciting. Anybody from the public would like to comment on that? Okay. Okay, next item, LCP. Local comprehensive update with Weston and Sampson. Ashley, do you want to just, us to go right in order of the agenda?
Yeah, that's fine.
So this was a repeat of the last meeting, planning board comments on existing conditions. So I submitted something today to Evan, Blake, and Ashley, Weston and Sampson, and you guys. So I think it's the very last page.
It's right after the last map, Solar Rising.
So I wanted to backtrack, and I had two more comments for transportation and circulation. And one was at our workshop on, what date was that, the 23rd?
Build
That was-
systems, yeah.
Right, the 23rd, July 23rd. I was approached by somebody, because we were doing transportation, we were doing build systems, and they reminded me that in the 1998 LCP, there's a map, there's a bicycle plan. I know it's from 1992, but the engineer from Beta was part of that conversation and wanted to see it. So it is in there, it's on the LCP, it's in the transportation chapter on page 283. So And you'll see it's black and white, it's really small, but I think that Beta will do well. And the other thing is I forgot to add when we commented on that chapter, as a problem or a threat or, something of concern for that chapter, we have awfully large vehicles, like tractor trailers
Yes.
that use our roads. And, it's just, I've always kind of asked, how do other places manage that? Some cities ban certain traffic at certain times. The construction trucks have to get to their site by 7 o'clock in the morning, because the cities can't deal with these big construction trucks jamming everything up. So maybe if there's some ideas about that.
We take pictures of the roads on a regular basis down where we are and bring them to the attention of the developer on an ongoing basis, just to let them know that we're watching their roads and, when they bring beach nourishment
Yeah.
and everything else. So, I mean, they're not happy that we do it, but they know we're doing it, and they also see the condition of the roads.
Do you have rules in your area about when trucks can come in or what kind, weight or?
There are rules of working hours,
Yes,
and that normally controls some of it.
yeah,
But that's just the independent people who do the work as compared to the developer who owns the property. And that's the beach nursement's the big one. Trucks come in loaded with sand for the beach. And they go over certain roads, and we've said, okay, use these roads now, and then after 2 weeks, use this road. We try to have them stagger the roads, and they're generally pretty good as long as we're watching.
That's a
interesting.
pretty smart idea.
It is.
Not wear, like, you don't wear the same dress, you wear it out,
We own the roads, so
Yeah, I
we
get
replace
that.
the roads, so therefore,
Yeah,
we should do what we're doing,
yeah, sounds smart.
because the people are paying for it on their fees, so. But that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Let them know you're watching.
And I have asked the Cape Cod Commission if there's ways to restrict road use with respect to type of vehicle. And they said no, but I'd like to ask that question of Beta.
I would imagine, and this is just, I'm just venturing a guess, I would imagine that on local roads, you can put local restrictions, but on a state road, it would be required that the state be regulating whatever the restriction, if it's a weight restriction.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a weight restriction.
Yeah,
What's that?
A lot of times it's a weight restriction,
Right.
because that's what really, and on some of the narrow roads, of course, there's a width restriction. You can't have certain size, or bridges. you
Well,
can't have certain size.
I think we need some width restrictions, because, I mean, I'll be on a road and an 18-wheeler will turn the corner, and you're like, what the heck?
They're not watching for you.
And I'm always like, slow down, because they don't know, there's people this time of year, they're bicycling and they're walking those backcountry roads. So, okay. All right, on to land use chapter. So, under existing conditions, I was wondering if we could get a summary of the planning board's subdivision rules and regulations, just, or at least to note that they exist. Also, a brief summary of the town's rules and regs with respect to wetlands, cranberry bogs, and rivers. I think there's some zoning that does that, and there's a wetland protection bylaw that I think that's the town code that the Conservation Commission has put forth. Also, a brief summary of the cluster development bylaw, which was, I know it's not that exciting right now, but when it was passed, it was like a big deal. Cluster subdivisions was a big deal. A brief summary of the accessory apartment bylaw and the open space incentive plan. There's like, when you look at the chapter, it says open space incentive plan in blue, like a title, and it looks like it never went on. I think maybe we wanted to put in the plan, the map of the open space that's linked to the open space incentive development bylaw. And also a brief summary of the open space incentive development bylaw, which is a bylaw that allows for the transfer of development rights, which is a big deal. Not all bylaws have that. So that is You don't develop, a property owner doesn't develop this land, but takes all those development rights and transfers them into other lands someplace else. And when we were talking in 2000, I think 17, about form-based code, there was a lot of people that came forward in public comment and said that the open space incentive development zoning bylaw, it starts at 20 acres.
Too big, should be reduced.
And that was one of their comments, was that, there were people who were landowners in town that could cobble together a certain amount of acreage, but the 20 acres was too big.
No.
That they could do something at 5 acres. So these were people that have owned land for years in town and that could cobble stuff together. So I think that we should look at that.
And there was different levels in that. If you gave a piece of land down there water, you got more credit.
Yes.
You had a piece of land.
The higher the quality, the more credit you got, the higher quality of the land.
Yeah.
The more
gotta make sure that-
housing you got
Yeah,
to
denser.
transfer in.
Yeah.
Because what was being transferred in under OSID is residential units.
Right.
I think somehow that needs to be simplified, because when I first read about that
know.
back in 2019, I said, what the heck does this mean? It is not self-explanatory as the bylaw is written. It really isn't. Do you think it is?
I think there's a reason why it hasn't been taken advantage of over the years, because transfer of development rights is a noble concept.
Yeah.
But it's so darn complicated
Yeah.
that it's dysfunctional.
And it was written
by
for
a
one
lawyer.
user. The other thing is, it was written for one entity.
Yeah, I was with Tom when we
Right.
did that.
It was written in cooperation with Mashpee Commons.
And they were in agreement to that.
And they were in agreement with it.
Yeah.
So it was, but I think once we started talking about it, there was interest expressed by other property owners.
I've seen a few plans or concepts in my office from around the same time, I guess late 80s, early 90s, for projects that were not Mashpee Commons to try to take advantage of it, but they were actually permitted not using OSID. They ended up taking advantage of another portion of the bylaw. Can't remember which exactly they were. But yeah, it needs improvement.
Anybody have any comments on the land use chapter? Okay. Moving on to natural resources. Under landscape, scenic, and resources, I have a list of things to add. I just went through the old plan and pulled out anything that I saw that was missing, especially Adequin Park, which is Mashpee Pond, which is also listed under recreation, but it is also a scenic resource. And then I'd love to see a map of all those areas and the map of the trails and trailhead parking, which you probably already have on the list. Also, you have a sentence in 4.2.2, shoreline, last sentence, remove remains in good condition, and note Dr. Howe's data on the quality of Mashpee River. Because I think that sentence from the trustees of the reservation is a little bit out of date. And then add maps of wetlands, rivers, streams, woodlands, communities, wildlife habitat. And under threats, I have add and briefly summarize the threat due to, so it should say emerging pollutants into Mashpee and Mashpee waters from Joint Base Cape Cod, including the PFAS contamination. And the person who I hear talk about that, like off the top of her head, is Ashley Fisher from DNR.
Yeah.
She's having to deal with that a lot because it's coming into the ponds, and then that falls under her bailiwick to fix. But there is an environmental, from the Joint Base Cape Cod, has a Center for Environmental Excellence. And you can look right on their website and see the plumes that are coming. I forget that woman, Renee somebody, there's a communication person that can get you all that information. Also, there's a section under nitrogen control. We might want to change that to nutrient control and add phosphorus into the discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
And note the recent closures of freshwater ponds due to blue-green algae. And again, get a hold of Dr. Howe's most recent report for Mashpee water bodies. I'm sure he's got like an executive summary that can be just thrown in.
Mary, when I look at some of the maps, I don't really know where this, I mean, I pretty much know what most of the streets in the town now, but, the maps are not identified, and it's like you really, there's not enough information in them to show you, oh, this is where this is. I know, streets crossing or some kind of landmark or something. I don't know if any of you feel that way, but.
Well, I can't get used to the landscape.
Yeah,
We really need them back like that. Like, I've got that in my head, I've got it
Like this?
memorized, yeah.
Yes.
The portrait,
Okay.
yeah. And,
if you have this, then you know
Should you-
where everything is. If somehow.
so the things that, like, always help me is where the major roads are, right? The state
Yes.
roads, the rotary, and those major ponds.
We'll get a map and we'll get your address and we'll have things saying, you are here, and then you can look from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's-
Some of the
yeah.
maps are hard to, unless
Yeah.
you really spend time on them,
Yeah.
but you have to spend the time.
I tried,
all
Ashley.
spend
The
I just
residents are all
can't
gonna have to
get
But
spend
used to
sometimes
it.
it just.
But we'll flip
Compute.
those to portrait and they'll be their own separate page.
Right.
So the scale will be a little bit better.
If it could
mean-
match the orientation of our zoning map,
Yep.
that's how we all look at the town.
I mean, the most useful way of using these maps will not be in paper form. It will be in your digital copy, which will be posted on your website, and people will be able to zoom in a bit and pan around on a map. But the only really good way to represent that in the paper form is to just do a one-page. But we'll see what we can do. We'll flip it around and make it its own page.
May I interject? Maybe you've done this before. You have a street map similar to what we were looking at before and for a redevelopment area. If you had somewhere in the unusable corner of that page, a lotus map, which is like shows the whole town, and a little square says, this map is in this area of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've seen that.
That's
So
a good
you
idea.
say, oh, now I know where it is. It's right next to that pond or whatever. But the map itself might show one street and a lot, something
Yeah, it
like
allows a
that.
better focus, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So typically for comprehensive plan maps, you're looking at a map of the entire town because you're looking at a wetland resources or natural resources, and you're not necessarily focusing in on specific areas. You're looking at town-wide information. Like when we're looking at transportation, we're looking at the whole network, the whole system. Again, they're tough to represent on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper in a way that's meaningful. They'll be most useful as digital versions. It's not, we could do them as fold outs if you wanted in the paper copies, so you could get them a little bit bigger. But we can discuss that going forward. You don't have to make a
And
decision
you hate
about
to
that
spend a
right
lot
now.
of money, but you could, at the library or here in town hall, you could have larger maps so people could come in and take a look at.
Yeah, the maps that are created will be created to whatever scale. So the way we do them is the GIS GIS technician is creating them with the known paper-sized product. So if I know that these are gonna be 8.5 by 11s, they'll be PDF'd to an 8.5 by 11. But if I know that you wanna blow them up and print them at 24 by 36, I can also make sure that you get a digital file for that, and then you can print them yourselves. You can do what you want with them. You can display them. We can certainly accommodate that and think about that going forward and how the maps get represented.
It's a
Well,
good
I-
idea. I don't know what the cost would be, but it's a good idea to have a.
I would like for our board to have this, and put it on, a hardboard or with foam board. And, you're not going to put them on your wall at home, but you could have them handy, so when you're studying something, you just put it up and
So when
take.
you have friends and family over, right?
Yeah.
And they go, how come we never hear from you? Well, this is why. I'm busy studying my
It's probably
zoning
a lot of
map.
maps, though.
What's that?
A
Yeah,
lot of maps.
yeah.
Yeah, it's less
It would be-
expensive
would be-
now
would be big.
to do those.
My first meeting, I talked to Tom Fadula afterwards. I said, and we only had one up, it was a zoning map, and he says, oh, we just printed up some zoning maps. We have a whole stack of old zoning maps, which we could get you, but it's only this area that changed in that zone and that zone. I said, good, at least, and I have it on a whiteboard
There you go.
does.
See?
in my basement office.
Bright minds think alike.
If we ever go back to Zoom, I'll have that right up behind me.
Okay.
I'll say, right over there.
We like maps. All right. All right, so before we move on, is there any comments from the public about the chapters on natural resources, land use and growth management, open space, recreation? We're only, looking at existing conditions. There's lots more that's going to be put into those chapters. The next item is assessment of the 1998 chapters on human services and solid waste management. Is it okay if we table that till next meeting? Because we just got them and I haven't, okay, great. Next item is draft survey.
Okay. Draft survey.
So there's the latest version of the survey in your packet, and it's, whoops. It starts off looking like this.
Looking like that?
Yep.
I see the draft survey. Hazardous waste.
It might look like this. 'Cause it might not have gotten, page one might not have been. It's before the DEP. It's way at the end. Yep, you got it.
I printed it out.
There you go, Rob. This is
No,
mine.
are we
Yep, it looks
talking
like
this?
that. Yep, it looks
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So you want to just go through page by page?
I could just start with the simple stuff, just so you can save your voice.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll hand it over to the vice chair.
If,
Go ahead.
if I
Just-
say anything wrong, just stop me.
Just say what page you're on.
I'm on page 2
Okay,
of 22.
okay.
I'm listening.
Okay. It was discussed at great length, and we agree that the general questions should be at the end.
Yep.
Okay, so questions 1 through 7 are okay, with the exception of number 4. We would like, under choices, to change it to, the question is demographics, what is your age? Under 18, question, or comma, 18 through 29, 30 through 39.
Oops, hold on, because I'm going to change this as we go.
Okay,
So that we
that's-
have an
it'll-
easily,
It'll save time if we do it now.
if I'm going to change this as we go, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
And that way, we make sure that all those changes get reflected and the document will
Perfect.
be cleaned
makes
up
sense, right?
and it'll be ready.
Boom.
Great.
So.
So under 18,
18 to 29.
30 to 39, you have
Okay.
it there. 40 to 49, 50 to 59, 60, And then we want to say
60 to 69.
60 to 69, and then comma, 70 to 79, comma, 80
Plus.
and up, or 80 plus. 80
Okay.
plus.
80 to
Because
the
we
end.
do have older people here.
Waiting for God, right? Remember that
I
sitcom?
want to say that.
Going to quality of life,
Oh, number 6. Do we want to add as a choice area of town?
no,
Okay, forget it.
but it's not, doesn't add anything.
Okay. So-
Okay, and quality of life, number 1, we think we should leave off the definition of quality of life because, everybody has a different idea about it. And the question is, how would you rate the quality of life that you,
No.
no, sorry, how would you
In
rate the
Mashpee.
quality of life in Mashpee? Yeah, the community quality of life.
Okay?
Very good, okay, so that's fine, the choices are fine.
Okay?
Question 2. Delete everything up until you come to, in your experience, comma, has your quality of life in Mashpee improved, comma, stayed the same, or gotten worse? So delete, do you take care of school-aged children and all that? Because I think that's already deleted. In your experience, comma, has your quality of life in Mashpee improved, stayed the same, or gotten worse?
Okay?
In a few words, underneath that where it says branch, in a few words, can you tell us why you answered the way that you did?
Okay?
And my question to you would be, will people do that? Will people take the time to, in your experience?
So it'll be optional. This will not be, like, if you don't answer, it won't prevent you from going to the next question.
Yeah.
So the people who want to answer and offer feedback will take it. If they want to skip it, they can move on
You want
without.
to say optional there in that case, so they don't feel like,
Yeah, we can say that.
Yeah, and
yeah, that way,
if I'm remembering, I added this after our discussion. I don't think it was in the previous version, but we
don't know
changed the
why I
quality
think
of
that.
life question, and I found myself asking, if we're asking about how their quality of life has improved or if it's gotten worse, wouldn't we really want to know
Why?
why? If it's gotten great, what's so
But
great?
you see, they could say, well, now I've got a heart condition or something. The answers are so variable.
But I just, if we're going to ask about
I think that's
the
going too much.
improvement, I just don't feel like Evan, I felt like if someone says the quality of life's gotten really crummy,
You want to know why.
I want to know why.
Well, what
And
would
it could be not, it could be something not related to the town, but it could also be something related to the town, and that would be something that you would want to pick up
But
on.
imagine if
No
100%
choice,
of
it's
respondents
just
said, my,
blank slate.
could you,
They
like,
all said, I adopted rescue dogs. My life is so much better.
Right.
Then guess what? We're going to start a program getting rescue dogs in the town, right?
I just feel like if we got 500 responses and 98% of people said, my quality of life's gotten worse in the past 10 years.
Right.
Well, we'd want to know what we can do about it. Though I don't know if this is the appropriate phrasing of the question, but I
just
feel
think
like
it
we
should
need
end
to ask
after why.
I think
In a
gotten-
few
I think
words,
gotten
Is
worse
your
is a pretty
quality
Can
of
you
life
tell
in
us why?
Mashpee?
And, or we could prescribe options, but I don't want to be overly prescriptive
No.
with regard to the response. Like an optional, open-ended
I
response.
think you can leave it as an optional, open-ended response. Let people fill it in if they want to. If it's something that they feel, compelled to do, they will give you an answer. If they don't want to, they can move on to the next question and skip it. And hopefully, to Evan's point, if people choose to fill it in, it adds value to the answer to their first question. It's great to know, how people perceive the quality of life, but it's even more valuable if we can understand why they perceive it the way that they do.
It just seems improvement is a person's perception about how things are going. If everything stays the same, that's one thing, but gotten worse would suggest that things were bad and they got worse. That's a little heavy, I think, but that's just how I look at it.
How I look at it, what dare you ask me? bad day for me.
Give him
you
the
could be
survey
any-
on a good
It
day.
could be any time during any day for you.
My husband yelled at me because I burnt the steak last night.
Yeah. I mean, gotten worse, I think it's heavy, but that's, I guess it means whatever they think. So,
I burnt this.
You know, and there's just, there's a whole different set of perspectives
Yeah.
for people to respond to this
I'm fine
from,
with
you know?
So we'll
Evan-
make it an optional, open-ended, and we'll just say in a few words, can you tell us why?
I would just
But-
end it there.
yeah.
Can I, in the boilerplate of the introduction, I mean, the LCP is a local comprehensive plan of Mashpee. In the introduction, questions are all relative to the town of Mashpee.
Your feeling
So-
and
So if you burnt the
experience of
steak,
Mashpee.
yeah, if you burnt the steak and you had a bad day, your quality of life has nothing to do with
With
the town of Mashpee. So if there's
Or
something
you
in.
drive to Boston from Mashpee, right.
But in somewhere in the boilerplate, questions that request a response, well, all questions pertain to the town of Mashpee, and not personal, don't interject personal.
The only other thing that I
values.
had thought about, Rob, too, about this question is, we don't necessarily know, and I don't know if there was a question previous to this one where we understand how long a person has been here. So like, if you've been here a year and you're a respondent, it's difficult to make a determination about how your quality of life has changed in Mashpee. I don't,
We have that.
on the flip
We have
side, I
that
don't think it
question.
necessarily matters how, say it again?
We have that question.
Do we have that question?
Yeah, it's number one.
Okay,
How long have you lived in Mashpee?
okay, good. Then never mind, I take it back.
Never mind.
But that was it.
I'm going to give, Mayor, if it's okay, I'll let you start on 5 because that's where my writing is
So
really.
number 3, number 3, the answers should be very important, important, somewhat important.
For number 3,
3.
Number 3, indicate how important the following factors are
so we're just changing it to important as opposed to
instead of impact. Yep.
And we're fine with all the choices, just as they're written.
I think you added some, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I have a bunch of red
Let's see.
here that was added.
I'll read what we have and you tell
Anybody,
me.
if anybody else has any comments on, as we go through each one, just holler out. Number 4, so Evan had a comment about, he highlighted job opportunities. Does economic opportunity cover both? So he's asking, should we have economic opportunities and
And
job
job opportunities.
opportunities?
I didn't suggest deleting it, but as I was making your edits, I realized that it might be duplicitous.
Right.
I
And
think you're asking two different things
Oh,
there.
so
You're
sh-
asking about the ability to obtain a job. And an economic opportunity, you're asking more about the ability to
Afford to live there.
own a business, open a business.
Separate items.
I see them as,
I see the distinction, but I just thought that it's worth discussing.
and then under climate change, I had in related impacts, flooding, erosion. In other places in the survey, we add severe storms. So I was hoping to add flooding, erosion, and severe storms.
So those are not in here, you're saying?
I think I
Climate
forgot to include
change.
severe storms.
Yeah.
I just add severe storms to the flooding and erosion.
Oh, I see. Okay, under climate change.
Yeah.
Flooding, erosion, severe storms. Okay?
And Evan, you have a comment?
Yeah, another one, it was just, as I was, we initially had only sprawl development in the survey, and then the suggestion was to change it to residential development. And we're talking about most serious problems here, right? So the options were changed to residential development and commercial development, when I just found myself I was asking myself, you know, we already ask about population growth, that being a problem.
Yeah.
So if we're not asking about sprawl, which I would consider a problem, I was just asking myself if we should be, what's the purpose of asking about problems of
You have
residential?
to have something in there about development.
But I think,
Oh, I know what you're saying.
but
Like, we can't just leave it
it's
at
related
loss
to
of open space.
population, you know, but like,
I was
but what do we mean? I just don't know
Right,
if
so I
I
was
get
looking
it.
at all the comments. I got these from Evan. They were like, it's just like the raw comments from our workshops. And there are people that put in there, we want a building moratorium.
Well, let me say something. Which of the following are the most serious problems facing Mashpee today? When you say residential development, I mean, I don't know what that means either, because are we talking about single-family homes, duplexes, triplexes?
Like, what about the residential development is the
What's the issue with the
problem?
residential development that bothers you? What do you say,
And so
Ash?
if it's about a moratorium, if that's what we're
Should we-
asking.
I don't wanna
Should it just
know-
be new
I-
development?
Overdevelopment.
But then again, you know, overdevelopment, I think,
But
is
you're-
prescriptive and then a problem. So I would posit that if we're trying to get at a moratorium response, just new development at all could be a serious problem, as opposed to prescribing commercial or residential, or as opposed to
Further
sprawl.
development?
I just, the use of overdevelopment is leading.
I wouldn't use overdevelopment. I mean, if you're trying to get at whether or not people think there's too much development going on, then I think I would go with what Evan said, which is just to categorize it as new development. If I'm trying to sit in the position of a person answering this question.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I would answer to residential development or commercial development, because I don't know if you're asking me about existing development or if you're
Say-
asking me about new development or
New
redevelopment.
residential, new commercial development.
I think we should just put new development.
Yeah, I think
Let it
I
be
think new
whatever they
development is the
think.
best way to go.
So-
New development.
I mean, now that I understand the context of where it came from, I think that captures the intent without being leading.
Leading, right.
So if that was what I was kind of thinking about as I was
Yep.
making your changes.
Then for the answers, don't use the 1 through 5 grade, use, you know, very serious, serious, somewhat serious, those words. Anybody else, any comments?
To me, that's like, when we first started talking about redevelopment, this, now we're talking about no development.
Well, again, we're not saying anything. We're trying to ask from a neutral point of view, a particular user's feeling about new development. Maybe no one says that that's a problem for them, but some may.
But we can't leave it out. Like, we can't leave that option out when like 3 people that participated, there were 3 comments, I don't know how many people said it, but it was entered 3 times on the chart, a building moratorium. So we have to like at least acknowledge that somebody said that. Most everything in the survey, when you read the comments made at our workshops, it's somehow in this survey already. So.
Right.
All right, you ready to go to housing?
Yep.
All right, so I love it. More attainable, affordable, and workforce housing. We used every single word we suggested.
There was quite a discussion at the One Cape. They want to get away from workforce or subsidize or anything that indicates, but and affordable. They wanted to get away from affordable, and it was what's the word you just used.
Attainable.
Obtainable.
Attainable.
I know.
So everybody said, yeah, that's the word. So
Yeah.
there were people discussing this, and
Yeah, I
that seems
know.
to be the
But,
buzzword.
but affordable housing is a legal term.
Right.
Right? Like, we have statutes, and there's penalties.
It's also a term that's been used a lot, so. people
Yeah.
are
I think
familiar.
I participated in a focus group over there, and one thing we really talked about is how much argument over, or confusion, and it kind of leads into
Yeah.
debate around nomenclature ends up happening, and
Yeah.
then it takes away from actual action, because people are confused. So we liked attainable when we were going through the survey, because we felt it captured everything.
What you're saying, Rob, I think, is that when it's attainable, it's, all these other points are subsumed under attainable.
If I'm a workforce person.
Whatever's
and I need
attainable, I
housing,
can
I want
afford.
to obtain housing. If I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
low income, I want to obtain housing. And so.
Attainable.
But for now, it's all in
It's
there.
a catch-all.
If that's what
Right,
you
I've been
prefer.
spending 17 years educating people what affordable housing means, and I'm not, like, damn it, I'm keeping that word in there.
This covers the gamut of what people.
I know. it does.
Hey, how come we don't have apartments?
Where?
Well, single family, question two. We have single family.
Well, it could be
Oh,
We have
multifamily.
multifamily.
Multi.
Family is an
Yeah, but
apartment.
multifamilies like, could be two
I
family.
can
or
add the
three
word
family.
apartment, that's
I had
fine.
to say
We
apartment.
can
Yeah,
add, we can
go
make it
ahead.
say multifamily apartments, or
Okay.
if that works for you.
But it's-
Well,
no.
I'm thinking, single-family
Right.
duplex, multifamily typically refers to anything that's like 3 to 5 units, and then apartment would be anything above that,
All right,
and
so
then
there's
live, work, communal, co-housing, other.
So
Okay.
can you put that in there? Can you put
Yep,
multifamily 3 to 5 units,
yep.
apartment buildings?
5 and over.
Yep.
5 plus.
Now, do-
That's what we need.
Now, I make the distinction that an apartment you rent, a dwelling unit a house you buy, or you own, or rent. That apartments are generally rentable units.
But I live in multifamily housing that's condos.
Yeah, that's what it would
Right.
be. It'd be a condo if it's multifamily.
Not
If it's an
always.
apartment,
Not
it's a
always.
con.
But it's a
Not always.
condo, not an apartment.
Always
I mean, you can,
apartment?
you can own, somebody could own a
Yeah.
5-unit and rent all 5 units,
Right.
and it would be rental units.
Okay.
Or even 3 units. I mean, that's pretty typical.
Oh, did we want to add assisted living in there?
Sure.
The only other thing I would say is, we'll get to this probably in a second, but
I got to tell you, when assisted living facilities get permitted in this town, people are really supportive of it. They're
I was thinking
super-
about that recently. We have relatively large,
Well-
dense
It is, but
congregate care, and people are very supportive of
Oh,
that,
they
but
can
not
afford
like
it.
family
I
housing.
don't know how they can afford it either.
Look at that.
Well, you don't need the distinction assisted living and nursing homes, do you?
No, I think assisted
Just
living,
assisted would
everybody
cover
kind of
that.
understands it's, yeah. Okay, so, I wanted to remove question 3 and put it in a completely standalone question that would say something like, in future land use decisions,
Let her type it.
You want to create, my understanding in talking to Evan is you want to create a land use question that stands by itself,
yeah.
right? All right, so let me just
So it's like-
set that up.
So it'd start off with the same little phrase, in
Yeah.
future land use decisions.
One of the questions too is, in the survey,
Ooh,
do you want these separated by category?
Oh, yeah. I've just gotten used to them. I think it works.
All right, go ahead, give me your
So it's,
question.
and then I wanted to say, and in consideration,
Wait a minute. You want to say, in future land use decisions,
and in, comma, and in consideration of, what did I say, Evan?
Limited
I've got
land
it.
availability or something like that.
Like, in consideration of,
That Mashpee has limited land available for development and preservation.
yeah. And in
What-
consideration that Mashpee has limited land available for development
And preservation.
and preservation,
What-
comma.
Tell us when you're next.
In future land use decisions and in consideration that Mashpee has limited land available for,
Future
For
development
development
or
and-
preservation.
Oh,
Yeah.
development, okay, or,
Okay.
All right, I think I see this
comma,
question now.
what type of land use do you support? Question mark.
And I was just thinking about your question, I think, because I would suggest, as an option, staying somewhat consistent with the framework of this question, but going with what Mary is saying is like, in future land use decisions and in consideration of the limited land availability for new development or preservation, what priority should be given to the following uses? And we list out the totality of the uses, and we still ask for a much greater priority, equal priority, et cetera.
Right, so in the land use chapter, there's this chart that says agriculture, residential, commercial, water, right? So we should put all of those, but we should also get at this question, you know, should we prioritize land use for affordable housing? Should we prioritize land use for commercial development? Should we prioritize land use development for development that grows the tax base? You know, all these questions that you were trying to get at, like, we should have those pulled out, too.
So I think that, as I just read it, would work,
Yeah,
and I can bring that up.
and I think you guys need to wordsmith that a little bit more and bring it back to us. What do you think?
Sure.
so you want to
What I
use,
would suggest, I wanted to jump on this a little bit,
Yeah.
because we'd really love to walk away today
We have to finish
with the
this.
completed, with our directive, like the survey would be, we would want to walk away and put this in both a paper format and in the digital format, and then send it to you guys, and have you take it, like do a mock thing, and have you take it to give it, and say, all right, this isn't working, or we need
we
some
want you
final
to
tweaks.
beta test the survey,
Yeah.
basically.
We're gonna beta
So we want to
test
walk
it.
away today with it, decisions made, so we can have you beta test it.
All right,
Instead of-
so
That's a good idea.
what was the other one I wanted to strike and add into it?
It was coastal resources, question 2, bullet 2.
So is that the only question you want in that land use section?
Well, number 4 has changed.
Well, she wanted to, I think-
Housing number 3,
Yeah.
question number 3, and what page is the other one on?
So I'm going to strike housing number 3 from that section, because you've reworked that and moved it.
Page 12, Mary,
Page 12, thank you.
question 2, bullet 2. You wanted to strike that as well and capture it in the land use question.
Right, so this,
What,
so I want you to.
Page 12?
Yeah, sorry, we're jumping around just to capture that a
Page
little
12, under natural resources, question 2.
Yep.
Mashpee should balance future open space acquisition protection with other priorities such as housing needs and growing the tax base.
That's what you
That's a
want
good idea,
question 2 to
So,
read?
so pull that out and throw that in that land use. Have the growth, have the growing the tax base, land use that grows the tax base as an individual.
So use
item.
the bullets under the question.
Yeah.
Move those into the land use question.
Just
and
that-
then-
Just the second
Just that
bullet.
Just the
second bullet.
second one?
Yeah. Because again, you'll have open space, a housing bullet for them to rate, and something about developing the tax base.
So that becomes one of the options under the land use question.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you want a question, what are the other options you,
Oh, they're in the, I was just thinking,
you want to use all of those categories
Yeah.
from, because those are basically like GIS
Yeah.
categories and how they categorize land use when they map it.
And you
So
made
that's
reference to the
Mass
existing use
GIS.
table, right? You made reference to the existing use table in the zoning bylaw, or you used the 1998 comprehensive plan?
I went to the new chapter on land use. and it said,
What page are you on in that so I can look? Table 5.3, right?
so,
Which is on page 4.
Mary, what exactly are you looking for?
there was like a map that it was something about our land and how much is zoned agricultural, commercial, industrial.
So there's
Okay.
table 5.3 on page 4, which
Yeah.
is the existing land use for 2016. That's Mass GIS data. That's not your
It's on
zoning.
Page 4.
Yeah, I think, because it had water in it. It had water
Yeah, it
protection.
goes up to the top of
Yeah,
page
it's a
yeah.
one on page 4,
5.
table 5.3.
That's how Mass GIS categorizes land use. Those are their categories, and they look at the town and they, they make those assessments.
So I just thought it captured agriculture, it captured commercial and industrial.
Yeah, like
It
this.
captured, yes, it captured open space. I don't think I don't think we need to put recreation separate. It captured residential, and it also captured water, which back in the day was a big deal, that towns bought land that protected the drinking water.
I would only,
So my only comment on that is you wouldn't want to put water, because you're asking people, in this question, the way it's written right now, you're asking people what type of land use do they support?
For the limited amount of land that we have control over. Okay.
Right. So we're
Yeah.
asking people for what's left.
Yeah.
Do you support residential development? Do you support preservation of open space? Do
You got
you
it.
support commercial development, industrial development,
mixed use.
mixed use?
Mixed
I would,
use.
I would leave it at those categories.
Yeah,
But I'd still like to get at your question, residential, for a subsection of housing. Mixed use, like I would say mixed use, affordable and workforce housing. So some people in my travels, right, they're like, I'm fine with height and density, using the little bit of land that we have left, but I want to see affordable housing there. I want to see workforce housing there. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I want to see what everybody else thinks about that. Or if they're fine with just housing.
then maybe there needs to be, if you're trying to get at understanding if people will support density, if there's affordable housing in it, then we should just ask that question in the housing section,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah,
I think
Very
that's
straightforward.
I think that's good guidance.
That's what she's saying, exactly the same thing.
that's what it should be.
Okay, good.
So, wait.
I know.
want to make sure we get that in there. I'm gonna just quickly look and see if there's a question we can,
There's a housing question that we
There's-
can add to.
let's see.
Are we still asking about people's priority of the
So-
variable land uses we just discussed, in addition to a
So we
question
won't-
that asks
So
specifically?
we won't have a caveat for affordable housing, it'll just be residential. So you'll have residential, commercial, industrial, mixed use, which you're gonna have to explain, that's a combination of residential and commercial.
So we do ask the question that says, below is a list of examples of housing types that involve greater density. To what extent would you support or oppose each of these in order to create housing that is more, and we said affordable, but I'm thinking we're changing that to attainable, to the average household? And then we list types, housing types
What number are you on?
It's the next question.
under housing.
So question 4, I think,
Oh.
is very confusing. I think.
Under
it-
housing?
I think what.
Do we want to just
that
remove
question
that
should
and
go-
ask the
that-
one we just came up with?
It should go under 6. Should go under 6.
Would it be too vague
So
to
it would say something like, to what extent do you support or oppose each of the following? Height and density provided a significant portion of those units are affordable to low and moderate income households, something like that. Or provided a portion of them are workforce or affordable housing.
What are we calling it? Are we calling it affordable, attainable workforce?
Attainable, affordable, and workforce housing.
All four, all three.
Let's put it in there and mull over it.
Are we adding that to this? or
We're
are we-
adding that to
we're just
question 6.
Adding
housing
that as an
6.
option?
Yep.
Couldn't you say,
So are we striking question 4?
You guys don't want to strike it, I'm going to leave it alone.
If you find it confusing, I
f-
only
I
imagine
feel
other
like-
people will.
I feel like we were just trying to get at like a level of comfort with what what types of, what scale, scope of
Yeah.
redevelopment priority people would have. But, you know, if we're going to kind of do as an early action, like charrettes, maybe visual preference, then we can get rid of it.
You're going to be doing a housing production plan.
Exactly. So I'm okay with getting rid of it. I would only suggest, I think, as an option, if we asked about, would you support greater density
Here you go. Here, I got it.
for attainable housing across like all income levels, as opposed to like being overly prescriptive with regard to, like trying to keep that language consistent.
I think you're going to miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because people know what affordable housing is, that it helps low and moderate households. So if you leave affordable out, you're going to miss an opportunity.
And my only point, I made this point at the last meeting, it's just, the problem is, you know, I think the greatest need still exists at, you know, folks earning at or below 80% of AMI, but the scope of the issue goes so much beyond that limited income range that I want to make sure the question covers
But then
everybody.
you get at it with the workforce. When you put the workforce in,
But even then, isn't that capped at 120%? So
Yeah.
I mean, like,
right, but if you're making 120% of the AMI, you're really at the upper end of not having a
Don't
housing
you think you ought
issue.
to define it for the people? Because they don't know, I don't know what attainable is. I mean, now it depends on what your level.
Right.
well, I
I've
think
been-
that's my
They're going to
point.
answer the question
Right.
based on their level.
I think
We've
that's
been
my point.
educating on the Cape for 20 years what affordable housing is.
Well,
And now we have new terms, and now it's going to take us 20 more years. So we could put definitions in here.
I mean,
That's-
it's
I feel
kind
like
of
we're
wordy
confusing
to,
people
you
per-
know,
per- you
below
know.
80% of AMI. I mean,
People don't know what that
I have
means.
no idea.
There's too many housing words in this thing.
Attainable
Like
erases
Rob said,
everything.
attainable housing.
Can you
You
afford
can't-
to live in Mashpee? One question.
I get confused with all.
Well,
workforce.
you live in Mashpee, so
You
yes, you
already live
can,
here.
right? But, you know, people, for about 7 or 8 years, people have been using the term workforce, and people understand that. So I think we should take a chance and put attainable, affordable,
I
and
still don't
workforce housing.
understand, I'm sorry,
No,
but
I don't get it either.
let's create two groups against each other. Affordable housing and workforce housing.
We could come up with 20 synonyms. Let's go with attainable, affordable, and workforce. Period.
That's it, yeah.
Let's just go with that.
Go
Okay.
and all these other.
Let's make a decision, because I
adjectives.
think it covers
So
the
can I,
gamut.
can I make a suggestion, just
Yeah.
in the name of time and really wanting to get through all of these questions and only being on page 5? Can we agree to maybe table that piece of the discussion? And if you guys want to talk about that at another meeting and change the wording, it's not that hard for me to go
Okay.
into the survey and switch out words or add words. And for now, just focus on getting these questions
So-
pretty well locked down. And if we change the word
Number
from
4
attainable
skipped.
to
That's
workforce
okay
or
with me, but I
affordable.
think the bottom line should be, we use those 3 terms and go forward.
I'm fine with that. So for now,
Yeah,
we'll do
That's how it
that.
is, right now.
And if you change your
Yeah.
mind later on, that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
Are we leaving question 4?
Yes.
Okay.
Because Evan wants it.
Oh, no,
wants
I
it.
just said, I don't think
Leave
it's.
it in. It's going to give you, it's going to give you answers that you're going to be able to use, right?
Okay.
We're going to get rid of number 3, though.
So
Number
we're
3
leaving
is
it in
gone.
small houses, duplex, triplex, all that.
But I will say, I don't feel compelled to keep it if we get an understanding that people will support zoning changes, and as the next step, we would establish what their general preference is. We were trying to make this, we want, if we're going to be contemplating redevelopment, we were hoping to gather some feedback relative to what would be supported, but I'm not 100% married to this. We're just trying to make a former question
I
work.
think the question drills down a little too far.
So if you want to get rid of it, I'm okay with
Bump
it.
it to the HPP, the Housing Production Plans Survey?
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay, put that to 4 goes.
Gone.
So you're striking
Yeah,
that?
Ashley's like, I can do
Yes.
that real quick.
Deleting is easy.
We're gonna take a lottery, the questions that create the most confusion.
All right, so 5 is okay. 6, we've added as an option, height and density, provided that a significant portion of the units are attainable,
I think
affordable, and
You've
workable.
number-
5 is in 6. Do you believe that all new residential developments should contain a mix of housing
All right,
choices? It's in
that's
6.
Fine, we'll delete that.
Okay.
And that goes into 6.
And then we said something, we were going to add a bullet in 6 about height and density in exchange for attainable, affordable, and workforce housing.
Yeah.
You know what, I mean, maybe I don't want to be a Downer, Debbie Downer on this, but this is a hell of a tedious question. It's like, I can see people
know.
saying, I don't feel like finishing this.
That's why we're putting it up. It's going to be like their 3rd question. They're going to have high energy.
Putting it up in the, closer to the front.
So, I mean, you have to think about it too, that we're reading through this in a table on a Word document. They're gonna be looking at a screen that gives you the question.
So it's
and
gonna
then
be
has a
format.
matrix
Easy on
where
the
they're just
eye.
gonna
Much
click a
easier on the
box or
Yeah.
not click a box. So hopefully, formatting it into the SurveyMonkey, format, it will make it less daunting. But that's why you're gonna beta test it. So you're gonna try it out, and those questions that don't look good or work well, we can go back and fix them.
May I ask, besides the board, anybody else going to beta?
If you want other people to do it, we can certainly
No,
do that.
Is there?
Yeah, I think we should require that the selectmen do it too.
Yeah, if you
Yes.
give me a list of emails, that's
What do you
who
guys
will
want?
beta test it. It's up to you.
I'd be more than happy to present that to them.
I mean, we've done beta testing on surveys before, and
But
we've
anybody
had,
outside of the group is going to raise questions. Why do we have this? This is duplicated, It may generate more questions than filling out the
No, I
survey.
mean, the selectmen should be forced to fill it out as a beta test. They're
have
not
to-
allowed to ask any questions. about it.
oh, Evan, you
Could
can have staff do
I was
it.
just going to say department heads could do it.
Oh, now let's get the whole world in.
Let's just issue the thing.
Let's go, everyone. pick
No, I mean,
two
department heads,
friends.
there's only a handful of us. The vast majority are Mashpee residents.
No, you
I
can
think-
get a group of people that would be willing to
No, I
volunteer.
think we should go with what Michael suggested, right? Board of Selectmen, and if you want to try the department heads.
So let me give you an example of what we've done before. There is some value in having people other than the people who wrote the survey beta test the
Oh, sure.
survey.
Absolutely.
What we've done before is the people who the group that worked on the survey provided 5 emails of friends, family, whatever, and said, this is who I want you to send the survey to. So we can include you can give me 5 emails each that you've said to your friend, you're gonna get a survey, I need you to help out.
They wouldn't be my friends anymore. would they?
Because you really want the average citizen who may have that valuable feedback about what they get and they don't get in it to do the survey. So we can certainly do it that way. It's simply just sending it out specifically to those people.
So Ashley, we don't want people who've been attending the workshops who have a lot of knowledge.
I think you want, your friend that you have lunch with every Tuesday that hasn't come to the workshops, and ask them as a favor, would you do me this favor? You're gonna get a survey. We're testing it out. give it a try, let us know what worked and didn't work once you've taken it.
All right,
I think that's good.
You can also send it to your
Because then
enemies.
you're going to have the vocabulary problem, attainable, and you start looking at these forms of houses here, and they're saying, I don't know, I mean, I don't have an opinion on this.
That's the beauty of beta testing. You got a small sample,
Right.
and then you're gonna say, it's-
people,
We can work out the
people
kinks
can
that way.
Google, people can Google
Yeah,
stuff.
and, you keep
Well,
pushing
there.
that, Karen. We have one person on planning board held responsible for answering all those questions. You.
Bullet number 6, so let's see, I don't know, it's the original housing question number 6.
Yep.
Bullet number 6 is a typo, units.
1, 2, 3, 4.
3,
Bullet
4.
number
Require development of new housing units to dedicate a portion of those unites.
Oh. Sure is, doesn't pick up words that are real words.
And then there are 3 bullets that I think you can merge into one above. So let's see. 7, 8, 9,
So
10, 11, 12. Bullet 10, 11, 12, where it says a town bond for the term. I think you can wrap that into bullet number 7, town subsidy or financial incentive.
So just delete,
A town bond for, a town bond for, a town purchase of. Because I think you cover it when you say a town subsidy or financial incentive to create
Okay.
affordable housing.
and you deleted the last 2, right?
Yes, because I think it's,
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm getting it. And then you've deleted question 7.
because I think it's in
Yeah.
the question above.
Okay. All right, that brings us to economic development.
Oh, I wanted to, somewhere in this these questions, add development of remote workplaces, or, I don't know, tap into the remote work economy.
What are they, like,
It's like you have blue economy, so what's the remote economy? What do you call it?
I have no idea.
Virtual employment, or,
Do you specifically mean like co-working spaces? Or you're talking
Well,
about like
we
the whole
want to
sector?
tout that Mashpee is a great place to work from remotely, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but maybe, well, we want to ask the community, do they think we should develop, the economy that's a remote economy, the virtual economy?
I'll have to find the appropriate phrase. I have no idea.
yeah, I don't know the phrase.
And question number 2, it has, would you support or oppose investments to pay for, what were you trying to get at, a town subsidy? A town investment? Like investment by whom?
By the town.
Okay.
Or private even.
No, I think.
Oh, we're talking town?
We're talking about town, yeah. So I think we should note that, that's a town investment, or town investments.
Okay.
And then just, we have 2 separate bullets here. One is create affordable housing, one is create workforce housing. Do we want to have only one bullet that says create affordable, attainable, and/or workforce housing?
Yes, right?
Yes.
Just for consistency's sake?
Yeah,
And to eliminate a bullet?
Yeah.
right.
See that efficient, the streamlining right there.
Okay.
And then the last question, you have Mashpee, Falmouth, Barnstable, Sandwich. I think we should definitely have something that says off Cape.
What question are we on?
Question
She
8.
just,
Where
page
do you
9,
buy the following?
question 8.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mashpee, Falmouth, Barnstable, Sandwich,
It would say elsewhere on Cape Cod, and then off Cape. Then another bullet, off Cape, online.
Cool.
Not NA, okay.
Yeah. All right. So we're on page 10. We're on page 10.
Okay, that's good.
So I have under question 3, heat islands. We should define as pockets of extreme heat.
Are you all comfortable with that sustainability definition that I
Oh,
found?
yeah. Thank you. And then I think,
And you had a comment, but not a comment. Under energy efficiency, there's a comment, but it's empty. Is there something there?
I don't remember if I intended on,
Okay.
let me try and think, though.
And-
Oh, I remember what I was thinking, and I don't remember putting it in, but I will mention that energy efficiency, I was wondering if we were being duplicative with greenhouse gas emissions, but ultimately I found that it's okay to ask both.
okay.
Okay.
Because I feel like energy efficiency is really getting at reducing your carbon footprint and, reducing the amount of greenhouse gases we emit. We could simplify it and get rid of a bullet, in my opinion, or we could ask both, but that's where I was going with that comment that I did not insert.
And
Okay.
how about another choice or concern, loss of habitat?
Okay.
How about deforestation?
It's in there.
It's in there.
We could do deforestation
see.
/
Oh.
habitat loss, but I think, not all habitat is forest.
Correct.
Right.
Right, because we're going to lose freshwater wetlands. We're going to have saltwater infiltration, and that's a loss of habitat.
So a separate bullet?
Yeah. The number 4 is highlighted. I
I'm
don't
trying to
know
remember why.
But bullet 3 and 4, it says reducing. If you could just use reduce, just to keep the tense consistent.
So does this not need to be highlighted, Evan?
I'm trying to remember why I highlighted it in the first place.
Oh, you don't want the gerund form, you just want to keep everything reduce, promote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and then.
I'm wondering if I just highlighted it because there were changes I needed to make and didn't go back and do. So apologies if I'm confusing you, but I can't recall why I highlighted it in my edits.
I just unhighlighted it, so.
And
Say it
then
again?
I unhighlighted it.
Done.
bullet number 9, promote alternative transportation options, just end it there. You have like a big phrase after it. I don't think you. Oh, in bullet number 4, it says reducing costs for Mashpee residents and businesses. The cost of what? Energy cost? Living, cost of living?
Where are you, Mary?
Question,
Question 4, 1, 2, 3, 4,
6.
5, 6. Bullet 6, reducing
missing
costs
page 10.
for Mashpee residents and businesses. Cost of what?
Why am I not seeing this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
do you all have page 10?
I'm on page 10 and 11.
Look on the other side.
I don't have,
I found it.
sorry.
I am not seeing this
That's
bullet.
broad, yeah.
6th on page 11?
So it's question 4.
Second bullet down on page 11.
Yeah.
Ah, I see.
If you even say, if you're talking about
Is
individuals.
it reducing
it's
energy
out-
costs?
Or out-of-pocket costs, or individual costs?
So maybe we could just strike that because I think it was
Because it's
a,
ambiguous.
I think
See ya.
it got merged into something else.
See ya.
Okay. Evan, you also highlighted 5.
I remember now. I think 4 was an accidental highlight, but I think I highlighted 5 because it seemed like possible impacts of climate change in the following, and how concerned are you about these sustainability issues? I guess sustainability, they felt like very similar questions.
Yep.
So there seemed to me to be an opportunity to remove one of them if we could structure the question 3 and question 5 in a manner that captures the data for both. So,
I thought question 3 and 5 could be combined.
I think you're right.
could be what, combined? That's why I highlighted this.
Yeah, I think question 3 and question 5 can be combined.
So I do agree.
As long as we keep in there something about diminution of local economy.
What I'm gonna do is go back to question 3 and combine the questions themselves, and then make sure that all of the options from both questions are
Can't, yeah,
there.
couldn't we just say, how concerned are you about these sustainability issues and climate change impacts?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I'll just make sure that all of the options from both questions are there.
Could you add a bullet point to be included, storm damage?
What are you adding?
In three combo 5,
Yeah.
storm damage?
But you have flood damage in there,
We have flood
flood
damage, but
damage, yeah.
storm
Storm damage
damage
is
is
different.
different
Yeah.
because of the wind.
wind, yeah.
So anything that's in 5 is an option that's not up in 3, I will move up.
And then you have other economic impacts, which is the last bullet of current 5. But it might be better,
To say what they are.
well, it's like damage to our local economy, but you don't use the word damage.
Downgrade of our local economy, diminution of our local economy.
Diminution of our local economy.
Is that too big a word?
I think it is.
But you guys can figure out what word it is.
You could just say impacts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Impacting
Impacts to the local
our
economy.
local economy.
Because if we,
You had two others
lose our
there.
aquaculture, then that hurts our local economy.
Mary, did you want to get rid of damage to town infrastructure?
No, I think we should leave that. It says local infrastructure, but it should be damage to local infrastructure. That's the second to last bullet for question 5.
And you had a very nuanced one, population migration.
Oh, yes.
Tell them what that is.
So there's a lot of people that are concerned that as places get really, really hot, people are just going to migrate from them. They're just going to walk from them. So I was thinking of putting in population migration in there.
What are you talking about? You're talking about like places like
Well,
India?
right
and
now,
what?
there's like these terrible and huge heat domes in like India where, the temperature just goes well over 100 and people are, dying in the street. It's terrible. I don't think it happened this year, but didn't happen last year. And what's going to happen with more severe storms and excessive heat, you're going to see human populations migrate. And
I don't
so-
think people are going to understand that phrase.
They're not.
Well, and I'm not so sure.
I'm not saying it's not
I'm not so sure
a-
what we could do about it anyway.
Well, I'm not saying it's not an issue and it's not something
But
you
how
shouldn't be
concerned
concerned
are you
about,
of it?
But I don't think anyone's gonna understand what that means.
I didn't know what it meant.
Okay, all right.
Didn't either.
I was gonna ask her, I think.
It's a very global issue as well. and
It
we're
is a
dealing with local
global
issues.
issue and I think,
Nope, I lost that one, boy.
But it's good to think about.
yeah, I'm not saying it's not an
There is
issue,
the
but
converse of that too, which was discussed at the One Cape, in that there are communities like Rochester, New York, and other places in New York that are getting ready to receive us because the water is rising over Cape Cod.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Local
Our
migration.
egress.
They're like,
Yeah,
come, come.
You could buy this house. Oh, what was your house on Cape Cod in 2022? $1 million? You could buy this $20,000 house in Rochester for that $1 million.
Interesting. Huh. All right, that's all I had for sustainability.
All right, natural resources?
Natural resources, I think, needs a lot of work. So, I think the first question, to what extent do you support or oppose the following to protect natural resources? So the first bullet, I changed to landscaping requirements to promote native vegetation.
Encourage or promote? I have encourage here. Do you want it to be promote?
I want it to be require.
I'm Mary, what page are you on?
So
What
now I'm on page 12. 12 of 22, natural resources. Landscape, all right, so I can live with, I guess I can live with it the way it is, but I think if you put landscaping requirements to encourage native vegetation, I think that's important to have vegetation in there. Because landscape can be a landscape design.
Okay.
Okay, the second bullet's fine, third bullet's fine, okay. A new bullet, prohibit construction in the flood zone.
Do we mean new construction?
Where you get
New
that?
construction. No, I'm adding it.
Oh, okay.
Should we add that?
Yeah, I think it's good.
So would you support or oppose stricter stormwater management?
I don't think people know what stormwater management is.
They're gonna have to learn. It's gonna be the next big issue in town. It is, it's gonna, because
I know, maybe if you could define it. I don't know, people I think will just move on because I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Well, I have a question. I know, I think I know what you mean, but I'm trying to look at this as somebody taking this that may not know. Stricter stormwater management, do you mean like design and installation requirements you're talking about?
There's more that could be done on commercial developments, new commercial developments, and there's a lot of poorly designed ways that are impacting our ponds and our ponds. Like, some of our boat ramps are pretty bad, and some of our, just access that people have made by launching boats where areas they're really not supposed to, or parked where they're really not supposed to. There's no vegetated swales to catch all this water. It's just going right down to streets and going into the ponds. And in some cases, it's up to 5% responsible for the nutrient load of a pond that has blue-green algae. So it's,
Maybe it's just about supporting regulations that would require,
so it's
there's
stronger stormwater regulations?
There's a difference, because what you're talking about is stuff that's already happened that was not part of, like, say, a development where they would have to implement stormwater management.
I'm trying to capture both, so you think we should split it up?
Well, I'm thinking that what you're talking about is an enforcement issue, because people are not supposed to do that. They're not
That is
supposed
a
to just
problem. That
go
is a
in
definite problem.
and create a new boat ramp and not, you can't just go in and disturb the land and not manage the stormwater. So that becomes a enforcement issue. And then you're also wanting to capture regulation that would cover new development and redevelopment. So it's both of those. I just want to make it clear so that somebody can
No, if we can't combine those two, let's split them up.
Well, I think we can probably combine them. I just want to make sure we word it
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking stricter stormwater management bylaws and regulations.
I can't believe we even ask anybody if they would support or oppose stormwater management down here. I can't even believe we'd ask the question. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't, but it's hard to believe that anybody would even oppose it.
Let's see.
Yeah, I remember
Let's
we
see.
went over this question for a while, and we tried pretty hard to come up with more than the 3 options we provided, but I felt like,
We have to have something
like
about
the-
stormwater.
I do like the
You gotta-
floodplain
You gotta do
question.
something about stormwater.
and we'll work on, I guess, the stormwater approach.
I would like to see, stormwater systems, installed and improved throughout town.
What about something like smart
Oh, well, why not say,
stormwater management, best practices?
why not say stricter stormwater regulations to include, make it, well, I guess it could almost be another question, but you want it under that, and list these various things like vegetative swales, da-da-da-da, in front of,
I don't want to get too technical
No.
on these questions. It's a very,
Plus, there's a hell of a lot more to come
it's a
anyway.
technical
I didn't even hear
question.
yeah.
We talk about this with the Stormwater Task Force, we meet like once a year. Stormwater infrastructure is designed to get water off the roads. Generally not
Not to
desi-
take the nutrients
Generally not
out.
designed for any sort of treatment other than maybe the separation of gas and oil. So that's what you're asking.
That's
you're
what I'm
getting at.
asking.
It's really about better engineering practices that get it, like better treatment before it leaches into groundwater. Which I think there is an interest in doing generally. It's just wording the question in a manner that isn't going to lose the taker is what I'm concerned about. But I understand the question.
So that's why, right, stricter stormwater management, that's why.
Why don't we table that?
Okay, we'll let you
We'll
guys.
work on it.
Yeah.
We'll work-
I'll
you
work
guys
on
work
it,
on-
too.
All right,
I'm gonna highlight that, Evan.
do we
so
want to
I can-
put here acquisition of open space?
That is a mechanism.
It's the first bullet in question 2.
Yeah, we do ask that.
Maybe we could combine it.
I think we probably can combine these. And I think what we can do here is combine them. So in question 1, not to ask specifically about regulations, but just to ask about to what
Yes.
extent would you support or impose
Yes.
or oppose the following
To protect
to
natural
protect
res-
natural
yeah, okay.
resources, and then put all the options underneath.
Cool.
Yeah.
Acquisition of open space. Okay. This was from one of our workshops. Protection of migratory patterns for birds, bats, and butterflies. It came up more than once. Protection of migratory patterns for birds, bats, and butterflies.
Hold on, let me finish moving this.
It did, yes.
I,
We're getting really,
Well, my devil's advocate question is, we want to be asking questions that are actionable at the end, so how would we do such a thing? Is it by open space acquisitions? Because if that's the case, we already asked that question. Like, what
No,
would we
these people
do
were like,
to
you're supposed to
preserve
survey
migratory
and
patterns?
watch it and make sure you don't have any, you don't build anything, like you don't put a cell tower in a major migratory pathway. I'm telling you, they were serious at my table about it.
I just feel like the best way we can have an impact on preserving migratory patterns of variable species is the acquisition of open space or the preservation of open space, and thus we're asking the question because
Okay.
we don't want a million people to say like, yes, this is a priority, and then be like, well, I don't really know how to do it.
Big signs 30 feet up with a picture of the bird and an arrow.
somebody's gonna say, who wrote it?
Directional
It's
signage.
gonna end up as a LCP comment. All right, strike that.
Turtles. We did studies where they migrated so they couldn't build the box turtle, I think it was.
Look at Evan.
They all fly.
It's not a massive opposition, it's just,
They have maps on that
is there an
already.
actionable goal that could be attached to
It would
such
be
a
hard to
thing
do
that we
something.
don't already
All
ask
right.
about?
My concern with putting something that specific is like, what else are we missing that we would be drilling down on to that level? And so I think, to Evan's point, if we can cover it in a broader category. But what I've done is combined 1 and 2, so it now reads, to what extent would you support or oppose the following? What do we want to call these?
Following, that's it. You don't have to name them. Following, dot, dot.
You don't want to say to protect natural resources?
The following, to protect natural resources, yep. Because you're stuck with the word things or items or,
Okay, so then we have landscaping requirements to
I don't know how to
encourage
get at that question.
native vegetation, prohibitions on the use of pesticides and insecticides, prohibitions on the use of chemical fertilizers, prohibition on the new construction in the flood zone, stricter stormwater management regulations and enforcement of stormwater violations, although we will work on
Yep.
that particular one.
acquisition of open space.
Acquisition,
All right, ready? Sewer the town,
open space,
right?
The most obvious question, but you should ask it.
Sewer the town.
okay? Are there any others?
Yes. For John Cotton. Remove cesspools and replace with modern wastewater treatment systems.
Okay,
Shoreline / coastal restoration and beach nourishment. All I can think about is the poppy spit, how much people really work so hard to preserve that. So I have, you can use different words, but shoreline / coastal restoration and beach nourishment.
okay. Is that it?
Was there anything in specifically that we should do to protect wetlands or wildlife habitat? Should we say something about clear cutting? Should we prohibit
cutting.
clear cutting?
We've already asked about deforestation, didn't we?
Deforestation in the
But that's
trees.
a
Scenic,
not in
protect
this.
scenic views. You want that? Or is that kind
I
of,
think that might be drilling down too far. Protect scenic views.
what scenic view would we want to protect?
Because in the natural resource chapter, it says something about scenic landscapes.
Yeah.
So to protect a scenic view is an awful lot of preservation of land. I mean, you really, you know.
Yeah, it's left to interpretation too. You know, my scenic view is looking at a tree. Somebody else is looking at the Mashpee River, and
Somebody else who likes bakery, sees a bakery across.
I mean, you could put in an option here to let people fill in,
Yes,
other, and then they could fill in.
yes.
Oh, optional,
Yeah.
fill in, optional.
Yep, that's a good one. Natural resources was like, just really, everybody was so engaged.
okay. You read something about stormwater runoff, greater enforcement of stormwater runoff. I think something to that effect?
We wrote, I just put in stricter stormwater management regulations and enforcement of stormwater violations. But
Right.
Evan and I were
But-
gonna work on that
But
language.
that wordage,
Runoff.
enforcement should go through everything.
Well, people understand
Yeah,
that.
not just.
So
ju-
should we
not
have a
just
bullet?
stormwater.
So
Yeah.
we should have a
Greater
standalone bullet.
enforcement.
Greater enforcement of our existing regulations that protect natural resources.
That's it. And not limited to stormwater. It should apply cross-board.
You okay with that?
Amy, did
I'm
you
good.
come here
Yeah,
tonight to
good.
talk about something specifically?
No,
Okay.
I didn't specifically come here.
Okay.
I just kind of wanted to listen.
Okay. I just wanted to check in with you.
Yeah, I just, my only question, I did have a question.
Why don't you come up? Please.
So, when you guys are meeting.
Oh, we're going to ask you we're going to turn on the mic for you, Amy. And introduce yourself and your street for the record. Your name and your street. Sit down.
Sit down.
Yes, okay. Hi, my name's Amy Peters, and I live at 9 Alice Lopez Lane, or Drive, sorry, in Mashpee. And what else was I supposed to say?
No, that's good. So you can public comment on what we're talking about.
Okay, so one of the questions I had was in the beginning when you were talking about the quality of life, how would you rate the quality of life? And you guys are doing a really excellent job with everything, so I guess my only question was, to me, it seems kind of an open-ended response, and when you're asking about economic opportunities, jobs versus business, that maybe, trying to find, yes, obtainable, affordable workforce housing, but also asking people whether they, do they feel that the town has enough resources, the buildings have enough resources that are helping people with economic securities, whether it be, you're saying tapping into remote jobs and things like that. Are they having any issues or barriers with food, food issues, kind of some specific things that would kind of help to give more information about affordable childcare and things like that, that are barriers to the obtaining the affordable,
We might
affordable,
have that
obtainable
in
housing.
services.
Is that?
You're right. It doesn't really say that.
That was just my only question or suggestion, that I think that, that kind of data is important to capture for a lot of different groups of people.
You're talking about food security, access to childcare. I don't know where we would put that. Okay.
I guess my question would be, because in the first one, it said, how would you rate your quality of life? Has it gotten better or worse? So, I mean, at that point, is there something in there that could be put in to ask, specific questions
maybe-
about resources
maybe,
the town is giving people?
What about,
How about an open-ended question about what would improve your quality of life in Mashpee?
Yeah, I mean, even that, like, yeah, what resources, do you feel specific resources that would help, maybe? I guess I was trying to get to what actual barriers
Right.
people were coming up against.
well, we do ask a question about the most serious problems facing Mashpee. We could add those options.
Yeah, where are you?
Question 4 under
Okay, all right.
quality of life.
So
So we
let's
would
see. Do
add
we-
food
Food
security.
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 Because we do ask about cost of living,
Childcare.
That's a good one.
security.
Good medical
Child
service.
bring up
Childcare
about-
affordability, or childcare availability?
Availability and affordability, yes. I think
Okay.
that would be something to add. Because I also, like, when you're talking about affordable, obtainable workforce housing.
Right.
Get it? If you
I-
don't have these other things, how can you afford the house?
Yeah, yeah.
Get it.
and
Food security,
just-
childcare, quality of life.
What other things, Amy, go with that? Food insecurity, child,
Yeah, and also, I just said, what did I write on here? Sorry. Yeah, just things like, you know, I don't know if there's, the town can't, you know, like family tax credits and stuff like that, probably not. But just, you know, just food insecurities, are there enough spaces and places for people to, food pantries and,
Okay.
and things like that, that would help people. I know you asked about economic opportunities, but also trying to find out, when you're saying jobs versus like opening up a business, you know, what kinds of barriers come in those places of those, quote, jobs? Like some people, you know, are there jobs that, you know, people are able to move up in, or, you know,
And then maybe
workforce?
we should have an other for that question.
Okay.
We do have taxes. We caught that one. And we do have access to medical services.
We do have other in there.
Okay,
right?
we do
Make sure
now.
I'm on the right question. Yeah.
If this is number 4, this is quality of life 4.
We don't, it's in the question above, so I will add other.
Yeah, and things like, you know, access to, like you said, medical, mental health services, or is there anything, things that people would, you know?
So, right, so I didn't break out access to mental health services. Do you think we should do that?
Separate.
I would, yeah, I would say,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, they're
So,
to-
access to
be-
medical services and access to mental health services.
And definitely like the childcare, the affordability and the access to that. And also, when you're saying housing, are they able to say, you know, would people support housing voucher programs, like, so that I mean, I guess, I'm trying to find out if there's a way to find,
Okay,
to see if the town supports, yes, affordable housing, but also housing for the
Yep.
lower income.
so that would be housing 6. To what extent do you support or oppose each of the following, a housing voucher program?
Or do we need more housing voucher programs, things like that?
And to that extent, a childcare voucher program, several towns have that.
And that too, yeah.
Okay, that would go under town services. Hold on.
Your town subsidy or financial incentives.
Where are you? Well, I'll put it under services and we'll deal with it. Childcare, town-sponsored childcare vouchers.
Yeah, that's some of the things that,
Yep.
Should we use the word stipend?
Yeah.
Town-sponsored childcare stipends, we'll put that in municipal buildings.
or even
facilities,
just
and
like a
services.
child tax credit or something where they could, you know,
That might get
towards,
too
that could go
confusing.
towards, I shouldn't say tax
Yeah,
credit, but I
tax
guess
credits.
that's kind of
Because
not
the
the word I
federal
want to
government
use.
allows that, but I don't know if the town can. But the
Yeah.
town could have a financial assistance program. Thank you,
Yeah.
Meredith.
So, that was it. Thank you, everybody.
That
Nice
was
to meet
good.
everybody.
So Amy does a lot of this stuff, so I appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
We would have missed
definitely.
those.
Very good work.
Nice to see the faces and so.
Meredith, do you want to come up?
I just wanted to say something about housing, the nomenclature, because Rob and I chatted briefly about it before too, at the One Cape Summit. Meredith Kilpatrick, Tracy Lane. I think you're missing an opportunity when you don't recognize what has happened in the last few years within the housing market. The current median home value or sales is $710,000. The current income required to purchase that is $158,000. Excuse me. The Donahue Institute with UMass Amherst is working with Cape Cod Commission doing a regional housing needs assessment. They're also reviewing what the impact of the short-term rental, Airbnb, has changed the market for availability. The Barnstable County current median income is $80,000, so most people who currently live here cannot afford to buy. The current median income for renters is $46,900. So that word attainable, achievable, is that whole police, fire, teacher economy that will be lost and should have as much emphasis as the affordable. So those were big, scary numbers of where we're at. And a lot of people are leaving the Cape. So that was my 2 cents. And nobody uses paper maps anymore. They're all right here. And you can all
I
expand.
use paper maps.
So 1% of the population probably uses paper maps between Google Earth. So anything to enhance that is much more accessible for trail maps, for all of that. So
Yeah.
paper maps are helpful to a very small and very expensive. So that was my.
Yep, look at all the paper in front of me. Sorry. All right.
I find myself a bit lost in where we are now.
I,
If we could regroup for a
well, let's
minute.
see where Ashley is.
We have combined question 1 and 2 in natural resources and given it an other.
Did you, well, all right, so did you,
Yes,
on quality of life, you
Yes.
made those edits? Okay.
yes.
All right. So what page are you on?
It's different
oh,
on
natural
here, but I'm
resources,
on
12.
natural resources question 3, which
Okay.
I don't see any changes to that.
Would you support the town budgeting for
There you go.
a street tree program?
Okay, I would like you to put question 4 ahead of 3,
It's fine.
because we want to try to do a residential tree bylaw.
Yes, I agree.
That makes sense.
Put that first.
We're going to call it the Faulkner.
I put
Tree
the
bylaw.
word commercial in there. Should I remove commercial? It says residential and commercial.
Well, commercial's not a street tree program, is it?
No, but I mean for 4, rather.
Oh, no, that's fine.
It's okay. 4, which is now 3.
Just more work.
All right, it gets really easy from this point on,
Oh, good.
except for my last page, which is, but anyways, all right. Tell us when you're ready to go to water resources.
I'm ready.
Bring it on.
Question 3. So we have, what measures do you believe the town can take to address water quality in Mashpee? Community education, okay. Financial support for sewering. Should we do that or just say install sewering in the town? So, water resources number 3, should we just say sewer the town instead of financial support for sewering?
First, we have to know if people want to sewer the town, and the next question is, how do we pay for it?
Well, this town's gonna have to sewer at some point.
I
so
think-
whether
I
they
think-
want to or not.
Yeah, well,
I think we can say sewer the
Sewer.
town.
Instead
I
of
mean,
financial support for sewering, just say
Sewer the
sewer
town.
the town.
Yeah.
because, thinking about when it comes time to act, to funding for phase 2 and phase 3, whatever, if an overwhelming plurality of respondees say that they support sewering the town, you have that to rely on when it comes time for town meeting without needing to discuss financial support.
well, I don't know about that. It's tough.
Sewer the town?
You think we should have the caveat that,
Sewering the town is a measure, the paramount measure the town has to take. So we shouldn't be asked if we want to financially support it. We should
Just
say
sewer the town.
I agree.
Sewers, period.
I think it's okay.
Now, what should we do with the next one? Right now, it says financial support for the installation of innovative IA systems. the innovative alternative
I think this is a little bit different, is getting that, for those folks who want to get off a conventional Title V, in recognition that the cost is greater, and then there's monitoring of that system. Is there, just like the county provides a loan program, could we provide, bolster that program with a local incentive?
Yeah, we've already got a
So
program.
I think it is about financial support to
That's already in
build
place,
or supplement
right?
a program.
Okay,
It's
I'm
already
fine with
in
it.
place with the existing ones now.
The county does it, but the town doesn't have a local, there's no forgivable loan program or grant program or whatever, where that someone could
With the state.
get town monies managed by some entity in the town to install an IA system.
So we're going to leave it as is.
I would suggest leaving it as is if this is a
That's
question of
really all the
interest.
town can do, is offers financial support to do,
Right, because we
to
can't
do that.
require someone
You
install an IA.
can't go in and dig it up and replace it for them.
Well, we can.
Right.
We just haven't voted on it yet.
But they've got a program, they've had a program for years with the state where the people can be able to
Do
interest-free
you want to
loan.
say for,
So-
But we're not going to put that in the survey, trust me.
do we want to say financial support, or not financial support? Yes, financial support for the installation of IA systems.
At private residences?
Yeah, the state just passed today. They're giving out funding, low-interest loans
Right.
for any sewer replacement.
Okay.
Septic system
But this
replacement.
has to be where sewering is not going to occur, doesn't it?
That's what it is today, where they're doing existing
I don't
ones.
think we need to specify that, though.
Okay.
I don't think you have to,
But I
You
think
don't need to put the details of what the financial support would be or how it would be
No,
applied.
no, but I'm
or-
saying, my understanding is the IAs would only go in places where we will not have sewers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to do it in places that are planned to be sewered.
So leave that out.
Yeah, not necessary.
And we have limit or reduce development. Okay. Require low-impact development to reduce impacts of stormwater on development. So Evan's comment is that's too technical. So how about something like
Require better.
require better stormwater management?
I think that's fine.
Huh?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Okay?
Next bullet, purchase environmentally sensitive land. I don't think you need the of. Next one, increase density in location of town with sewer and water, and concurrently,
No,
and at the same time, decrease density in environmentally sensitive areas.
Well, I read that as two bullets.
Well,
and if you built in protections, and even in
you,
the,
yeah.
it's that whole
It can't be two
upzone.
bullets, because if you increase density without
Yeah.
decreasing density, you're not doing anything to protect your water
It's
resources.
a
So I
trade-off.
think
It's one for the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a TDR question, it's transfer of development right question. Could you just say transfer of development rights?
No,
Maybe
because
people
people
wouldn't
won't
understand it.
understand what that means.
Yeah, right, it's the up zone with the down zoning at the same time. And I hope that the, let's see. Invest in green infrastructure retrofits for stormwater, I don't think we need that, because you're gonna have a bullet, require and install better stormwater management,
Yeah.
right? And then address PFAS contamination. I didn't know if you wanted to add something to that, Evan.
We're missing Joint Base Cape Cod's address of PFAS and PFOS tonight. at
So
6 to 8.
address emerging pollution from Joint Base Cape Cod. You want to put that in? Because it's not just PFAS
Just
that's
say,
coming off the
address
base.
PFAS contamination and other emerging
And
pollutants.
other emerging contaminants.
From Joint Base Cape Cod
No,
or
no,
just?
no.
I would
We're
leave
not
that
saying
to
that.
JBCC.
Other emerging contaminants.
Ray has said that the emerging contaminants,
Jack.
Jack has said, emerging contaminants are really serious because we've got antidepressants, marijuana, cocaine, you name it, we've got it.
Why is
in-
everyone so unhappy?
I live in Mashpee, I'm happy.
Drink more water.
All right. Question 4, I think is fine. Should an update to the town's wastewater management plan include plans to sewer around the freshwater bodies to address the phosphorus loading? I don't know who wrote that. I think it was me.
I can't recall if it was you or me.
Anyways. There's a little note here that says Evan fill in,
I think I
so.
might have wrote, because I feel like there's just, there remains the question about what to do with the phase 2, and everyone's like, should we do this or should we not do this? So I figured we should ask a question about it.
I think we should stir the pot and ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, I figure you should ask the question. I mean, if we're gonna be doing this and people are contemplating massive
Okay.
investments in a modified
Okay.
phase 2, we should probably ask about it.
Right, no picture of phase 2. Don't add the picture of phase 2.
It's just, you
For
know,
God's
yeah.
sake. All right,
Might have to wordsmith it a little bit. I think it's a
Okay.
little clunky, but I was trying to garner a level of support for what has been contemplated
yeah,
around the ponds.
yeah.
So are we going to keep it and rewrite it?
We might want to work on just the phrasing of that
Yeah,
question 4.
I mean, you're assuming that it's going to be effective.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
yeah,
We're not just going to sewer just to sewer. It has to be effective.
Yeah.
in consideration of the cost,
I
yeah.
will highlight it.
But, yeah, right.
Okay?
All right, that's what I have for water resources. Next is heritage preservation. Question 2, just add the bullet, access, so you have access to the water. I think we also need to put a bullet, access to land. Because a lot of our
Ancient ways.
ancient ways and a lot of our dirt roads are gated right now. And there's people that have complained about that.
Do you just want to leave it as general as access to land, or do you want to specify ancient ways and dirt roads? Because I would look at that and say access to land. I don't know what that means.
So, all right, so access to ancient ways and dirt roads. Thank you.
It's a catch-22, you know, really, that whole thing. I can understand the access, but when you open things up, the dumping occurs right away.
I get a plan.
Okay,
I have a plan.
So we're deleting that and saying what in lieu of that?
At the bullet of ancient
Saying
ways, we should say
we're
access.
adding a bullet that says access to ancient ways and dirt roads under
Got
question
it.
2.
Now, 3 is kind of like a continuation of 2. So again, ancient ways would have to do ancient ways and dirt roads.
Okay.
So Amy, I'm gonna ask you to listen to this question number 5, okay? The Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Council and the sorry,
not Mashpee.
just skipped into the next town, all right. The Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Council and the Mashpee Select Board have recently reconvened regular meetings. What do you hope to see result from these meetings?
I should note that I took a stab at trying to prescribe some outcomes here, but it might not work well that way. It could be an open-ended question, or we could put options. I just wanted to note that I don't know exactly what we're asking. I like the question, how do we want people to answer it?
Well, we could just do open answer. We could just do an open answer. But I went to the last meeting, the first that they've convened in a while. Oh, you were there. Oh, you were there,
I
Amy.
was there.
You were there.
Four of us were there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So improved communication, improved collaboration on projects and grant funding, opportunities for community education on Wampanoag culture, heritage, and history, unity, and then other, fill in.
So you want just me to answer?
Maybe she should see
Well, you were
it.
there, you were there. I wanted, you were busy.
No. So I'm not sure, what is it that you're asking me?
So
You're
this is
asking me-
under heritage and preservation and kind of like people.
Okay, so I don't want to represent and
Nope.
feel like I'm representing the whole community and tribe, so.
No,
So what do I feel is important?
so here's the question. What do you hope to see result from these meetings? We could leave it open-ended and just have people write in what they feel, or we can give them like some choices.
Also giving them an
Yeah.
opportunity to fill in
Afterwards.
another.
I think probably giving people choices probably is something easier than people having to write in, because, I don't know, by the time you get to certain questions, people tend, patience or whatever, attention sometimes can get, so, yeah, I would say just give somebody a few questions, a few answers and see, maybe even from those answers, a drop down of more specific things. Is that what you want?
I was,
I have 4 suggested bullets, right? Improved communication, improved collaboration on projects and grant funding. Remember they talked about that in the meeting? Opportunities for community education, right? Unity. And then that's then it's other.
when I built these response options, I was trying to reflect on what we were hearing at our workshops, from the people who participated there. And then, so I like the expansion for on projects and grant funding, and I like the other option. I think I don't think we're missing anything, at least nothing that I
That's what
could-
I'm wondering if we're missing.
or, yeah.
No,
What are we
I
missing?
mean, I think that sounds about right, and, but are you asking any other services or facilities that the town and tribe should share?
Yes.
I wouldn't know how to really answer that right now, but,
So I have that under services, I think.
because I don't know what
Yep,
you're.
I said the Board of Selectmen and the tribe have recently reconvened meetings. Are there any services or facilities that the town and the tribe could share?
That would have to go specifically to the council, and
Oh, yeah.
also, I would probably present that question to them.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
try to, and then get the answer from everybody in the community that you're sending this to. I would also say to try to collaborate in as far as getting more Wampanoag voices and representation to also some of the, when you're saying the unity.
So are you talking about collaborate to increase tribal representation
Yeah,
on
well, when
boards and
this
committees?
information, the dissemination of all these different, the information and things like that, of how this information gets to people.
Yes, okay.
How does this specific, I know this is just a draft, but how do people get access to this, and who gets
Yep.
access to this, and, what would be the best way to capture and get Wampanoag
Yep.
men and women's families' voices heard on some of those.
Yep.
That's all I would say.
I think we're gonna go to the general meeting on September 11th. And if we have the survey launched at that time, we'll promote it.
Okay.
We're gonna do like a workshop there, and if we have the survey, we're gonna promote it. But you're right, we should get it on the link on the tribal website, and maybe in that newsletter that comes out. I forget the name,
The mid-talk?
the one, yeah,
The mid-talk, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to add, to your point, I think where you maybe originally started, collaborate on ways to share and disseminate information, like
Ye-
between the two groups, not just about this survey in general,
Yes.
but just information between the town and the tribe?
I think that's what I
And-
meant between,
in
with
place
improved
of
communication,
improved
so replace that
communications,
with
yeah.
that.
So get
Replace
rid
the
of
first
bullet number
bullet.
1 and put what you said. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm in the hot seat. No, I'm just joking. Thank you.
Who wants
you.
to be a millionaire?
Would you be considering beta testing the survey?
Actually, yes, I could.
All right.
yeah. I got a few people I can send some emails. and send
Great.
it to, so definitely. Thank you.
So you have a question 6 in here. Do you intend that to be an open-ended question?
You know, I think if we do the other,
I'm not sure you need this one.
right, get rid
Agreed.
of 6.
Agreed.
And what I'd like to do is, once you guys have, I think we should beta test that with Amber at the tribal headquarters office.
Sure.
We can provide a link and ask them to distribute it to,
Yeah,
5 or 10 people that they
Yeah.
want to have beta test it.
yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, because, yeah, I hope the language is fine. All right. On to open space and recreation. We struck dog park from 2, we should put it up in 1.
So 1 and 2 are good.
Yeah, as
With
long
those-
as we
that
put dog
change.
park in the top. You know, it went from planned to existing.
So there is a dog park?
Yes, it's on my street. And the cars come down, I'm sorry, I have to take a break. I can't tell you how many cars come down, and the dogs are like hanging out the window. They're like, I'm almost at the dog park. Okay. So I'm on municipal buildings, facilities, and services. So we're gonna add a town-sponsored childcare stipend.
Where does that go?
Yeah, but we don't have a question
Oh,
that would fit under.
um,
Because we ask about satisfaction with existing. I wrote that note down here when we were talking about it, and I realized there's no question to put it under. So we'd have to ask a question.
Yeah, I mean,
Are there other town services that are not provided that we would want to put in here as,
maybe we should just have that as an open-ended question, or,
the list could be endless of what you would
Yeah,
put, and
which-
you
Right.
don't want to put things that you know you can't ever
I mean, can't we,
achieve.
just like, there was an earlier question, we were like, why don't we just ask it? Can we just ask if people would support
Yeah.
subsidies for childcare services, whether it be in the form of additional vouchers or a stipend?
I think we should, yeah.
With not being overly prescriptive about what the
Yeah,
program looks
childcare
like.
Say subs-
But if people
subsidies.
support it, then the action is, assess our options for what that subsidy
Okay.
looks like.
So would you support town subsidies for childcare?
Yeah.
And that's
I
just
guess
a-
for town residents, I guess. I mean, I don't know if we need to specify that either. It's pretty.
Oh, I think that's implied.
Yes.
But I like childcare stipend, the way that Meredith said that.
Yeah.
I think we should, would you support a town-sponsored childcare stipend?
So when you use the word sponsor, I think you imply that
Fund?
the town supports it, but doesn't necessarily
How about a town-funded?
pay for it.
Yep, town-funded, you're right, childcare stipend.
I think everybody would love to have that happen. That's a real reach.
Well, it's very interesting. There is a town that does it on the Cape, because
There's actually several that they talked about
Wow.
at One Cape.
I mean, it's a
think
real
there's-
problem.
There was a few examples that were done.
Right,
I mean, taking the 155K you need to earn to pay for a house, and
It's
then add the
crazy.
cost of your car you need to drive everywhere, and then you add the 20K a year cost to put your kid
Yeah.
in a pre-K program, it's pretty tough to survive here.
And maybe only
Yeah.
make $46,000 a year.
No, there was a discussion about that, and they talked about different ways that it is being addressed in some of the towns.
It's a real need in consideration of the long-term sustainability of this place.
But the first people that spoke, forget the organization, but they said, yeah, when they said not supporting childcare or childcare issues of not, providing adequate childcare, costs the Commonwealth $1.2 billion in lost production or productivity.
holy smokes.
Sure.
A year. And that there was money from the state to get money to alleviate that issue.
Yeah, good. I mean, so many people I know have had the,
Again, the best thing a town could do is hire a good grant writer.
That's right.
Everybody said that it worked
I
out.
think it's the best thing.
And the
It's a thing.
lieutenant governor said it right. He says, you're organized. There's a ton of money the state has. All you have to do is come up with a program, grant write it. Nobody else has your organization out there. Grab the money, it's there.
Yeah.
What did
Almost
she mean
everything.
by that? Because I didn't attend that. Nobody else has your organization.
Cape Cod Commission, basically, all 15 communities are speaking as one voice.
Yeah.
And so inside, let's say, the Cape Cod Commission, we have a collaborative group. You come up with, okay, Eastham has a program like that, which is now funded only by Eastham. But you write a grant program saying, this is the effect of this program. We're asking for state funds to improve our childcare
In other
availability.
words, you can show how it's been successful.
Boom.
Use the same format.
Right, and every town
Template.
could put in for that grant money, or it could come over as a Cape Cod Commission type grant that gets, distributed per capita or whatever over the Cape. And I think she came up and said, you're organized, and there's a lot of money in the state, go get it. Nobody else has you have a running start already. Everybody else is kind of like sitting down like, oh, there's money out there. You're way ahead of the curve.
No, that we should do.
So do we have that on the list? No?
What's that?
Grant writer?
Well, I don't think it's a question that should be on the survey.
Okay.
Well, you could ask an open-ended question, and like I said, the responses are endless, but do you want to ask an open-ended question? Is there a service that the town currently does not provide that you would like to see them provide?
I think we should do that.
Is there a service like childcare that the town is, needs to lead the answer?
We can ask that, you can ask the childcare
I think we should ask
question
both.
and ask ask that.
That's gonna be kind of a strong push towards working out of your house. Really. People who have had the opportunity because of the pandemic to work out of their house and be able to save some money on the childcare side of saying, boy, this isn't too bad. This is a good way to work.
I know some young people.
My daughter has
Yeah.
a very fine job. She, out of Cambridge, Mass, and for the last 2 years, she's worked out of her home. She has a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old.
That's different.
And it's childcare 5 days a week because she can't have children running around the house while she's working.
Well, yeah, you
She
gotta have
needs the
a,
childcare,
Yeah.
whether she's home or at her office in Cambridge.
I'm with you on that.
All right, so I'm on page 18 out of 22, municipal buildings and facilities. So we took care of the childcare question, the open-ended question.
Yep.
Just under fifth from the bottom, Department of Natural Resource Services, including shellfish, like, get rid of the including shellfish. I put that in, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then number 2,
How do you obtain new and general information about town government and important matters of concern?
Where's he at?
so here's the answers. The answers are in the fourth column over. So did we like those, or did we want to?
What is online and print?
Yeah.
I-
So print-
it's-
That all
it's
then-
too-
newspaper.
It's too obscure.
Okay.
What?
Oh,
Okay,
online and print news.
Yeah. The only question I
think-
have now is, as I look at this,
How do you,
can't we delete question 3 if we're asking if people visit the town's website to get general information? Because we're asking them to check all that apply.
wait, I got a great idea.
But you can go to the town website for a lot of other things. I might go there to find a link to your regulations or your ordinance or your bylaws or your, to fill out, to check hours, to get a beach sticker or whatever.
True.
I may not just go there for, I might go to pick up an agenda, I don't know.
I'm thinking that maybe we should say, the first question should be, do you visit the town's website? Yes or no? If not, why not? And then give the choices why you don't visit it. Too hard to navigate, can't find information, same thing, that I'm looking for.
I think we had a similar question on like an earlier version of this, and I just can't find,
Everyone
Yeah.
asks why
like,
not.
what's, why
Do you
why
care?
do we care?
Well, do you care?
What, that's my position, it's like,
I think
I
the
think it's important to
reason,
understand how people are getting information, but like,
wasn't the reason that you cared because you think the town website needs to be updated or?
I think the town website is relatively limited.
And why
But,
don't you just stay with how you're satisfied, that suggests that they'll answer because they either go or don't go.
I mean, we already asked that question, is my point, so
Yeah.
like,
Well, I think you could maybe be more specific.
If they say
Does the
no,
technology at town hall and town meetings meet your needs?
No, sorry.
All right.
been on
wait,
Zoom, it's
Let's go
terrible.
back to 2.
you'll get
right?
100 people to answer.
How do you
'cause
get
that's all
your
that come at town
information,
meeting.
right? So how do you get the information from the town, right? And so, is it email blasts? Is it robocalls?
I want to ask you on, because I think you're the one that added these. The second bullet point is intended to be town social media, emails, and phone calls, all as one?
yeah.
Right, but
Okay.
maybe we should
No, break them up.
break them up.
So it'd be town social media, town emails, town phone calls?
We have the robocall system.
Okay.
Like a reverse 911, or, no?
Yes, yeah.
Is
All
it,
right,
is
I
that
have
what's
it.
used, is the reverse 911?
Well, we get them when, I don't know, I just know it's a
Storm or
robocall.
tornado warning or?
The tornado warnings, the no parking because of the storm.
Are they limited to those type of like emergency situations? Because
It's
I
the-
know that
it's
some
the town-
towns,
People know what she says. Most people associate that with robocalls.
Oh, okay.
That's how most people.
It's the town manager controls that.
Yeah, we get
Right,
those
so I'm just-
robocalls.
Fire department does it, and the police department, they all do
Okay.
it. I'm not sure what it's really called.
Okay.
All right. For question 3, because we have this question in the branch, which I'm reading it now, and I just don't, can't we delete question 3? Do you visit the town website? Just ask about someone's satisfaction with it.
Yes.
And create as an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't visit it, or I don't use it.
sure.
Um,
So wait a minute. Are you satisfied with the information?
And then as one multiple choice option, not applicable, or I don't visit the website.
That's good.
So it would still give you all of the satisfaction options, and then it would give you an I don't visit option.
okay. So.
What about watch
I want to go
Mashpee?
back to 2. Done with 2. So it's newspaper, the online and print news. I guess it's just news. And then we have a lot of,
Well, I think you can say newspaper.
Yes.
okay,
Because
okay.
it really is an online newspaper. It's still
Yeah.
called an online
Okay.
newspaper, and I think that clarifies.
And then I wanted to distinguish between the town social media
And external.
and like right, so we have these, Mashpee-based Facebook groups. So however you describe those.
What is the town's social media?
Town has a Facebook page. The town has an official Facebook page.
Does the town have a Twitter account or any other social media?
Just
So then
Facebook.
I would say town Facebook page.
And the
Okay.
police department has a Facebook page. There are various Facebook pages, but.
Okay, so it's Facebook, okay,
It's
Facebook
Facebook.
page, okay. And then we can say something, maybe it's like citizen-run social media? I don't know.
Like Mashpee message, just,
Mashpee Message,
yeah.
There are so many. I mean, there are a lion's den of information, information. I don't know how you want to ask that.
there's now concerned citizens of Mashpee. It's like blossoming.
Say other social media.
You're rolling your eyes.
Or other social media.
Other social media.
Other
Thank
community
you.
Facebook pages, I don't know.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
And then, okay. So I'm done, I think I'm done with 2. Are you?
Watch Mashpee TV,
It's on there.
That's on there.
a word of mouth. You got that?
You get that twice.
Yeah, I took
Word of
off
mouth
one
is on there twice. Wow.
That's it.
Who added that twice?
Right, and then we have the 2 questions we added, and that's it, right?
Well, we wanted to ask a question about the town's meeting, the quality of the town's meeting rooms.
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the town's technology with respect to,
The audio quality in meeting rooms.
What audio quality?
and, right, the audio quality, being able to zoom in, remote participate,
So we are talking about 2 different things there.
yeah. And also, we want to know if the public feels that all public meetings should be broadcast and recorded.
All right, so are you satisfied with the town's audio quality for in-person meetings? Is there an issue there that you want to get
I
at?
would say about meeting room technology, such as audio quality and virtual participation.
And the other thing is, technology also includes the town website And the question is, and what would it cost to revamp it? Because it's not user-friendly,
What's not user-friendly?
the town website. For the average person, people call me and say, how do I find the agenda?
So that's question 3.
Yeah.
Because we ask, are you satisfied with the information provided and the ease of use of the town's website?
Please explain. There's an option to, you say, very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, da-da-da-da-da.
I don't visit.
Without spelling out.
And then there's a place to say, please explain.
Is there an explain?
And Karen,
Do we
your
need to
question
explain? I
would be
mean,
is
because I
how
mean, it's
unhappy
just
are
like, for
you?
me, it's like if someone's satisfied, then obviously we need to explore options to re-enhance the website or reconsider the platform. I don't see adding specificity to this question as necessary, personally. I just want to know their level of satisfaction so we can understand what we need to do about it, if anything.
Oh, I think we should have a write-in option
I th-
for 3. Oh, yeah.
How do you,
And that, there is, yeah.
you want to just say, please explain and let them
Yeah.
write?
It says that.
Oh, it
It
does,
says,
it does.
Okay.
please explain.
So then we're going to say, are you satisfied with the town's meeting technology, such as audio quality and virtual meeting format?
So audio quality in the meeting rooms. And then you said and virtual?
Virtual meeting format.
Yeah, I'd say virtual meeting participation. But a virtual meeting format is fine.
It is what the format is, that's not gonna change. It's-
When I think of participation, I think about whether I participate or not. And when I think about the format, I'm thinking about the actual setup of how the meeting is conducted and the fact that when you're
So
virtual,
there's town halls that are set up so that we would be on Zoom already automatically.
yep,
And then people could, via Zoom, say, raise their hand.
Yep.
And they want to participate.
yep,
So that's what I'm talking about.
right. That's the, I would say that's the format. That's the,
Okay.
how the meeting is set up and how the virtual piece of it
Okay.
is structured. I think.
Well,
If you
Zoom is
disagree,
Zoom.
that's fine.
Zoom is Zoom no matter where you are. It's more like how you hear it.
It's how, well, it's how you're using Zoom.
Yeah.
So my experience is that you do, like, there is an ability to, one town in Rhode Island will, when we were using, you can't do virtual meetings in Rhode Island anymore, but when we were doing them, the ability to, the actual meeting, like the in-person people were a Zoom component. And so you could see like, if I'm at home and I'm on Zoom, I could see this room as a Zoom
Yes.
participant.
Right.
And I could also be a Zoom participant.
Yes.
And
Yep.
you could hear me and I could hear
Yes.
you,
Right.
and we were all on the same screen together. There was a camera in the room that made
Yep.
this a Zoom participant, so
Yep.
it actually worked really well
Yep.
for a hybrid meeting. That's the format. I think that's how you implement Zoom.
I just got notified
Notice?
that ironically, as we discuss our communications from this room, that Mashpee TV has cut off our broadcast. What's going on in there, Justin?
That's ironic.
It only goes to a certain
That's because it's
time.
after hours for them.
Oh, gosh,
So,
that's
right, so we
hilarious.
have that in the town of Yarmouth. That's what they do. Okay, so good. You call it format, we agree. All right.
And is that a yes or no question?
I would, and then I would put, I
Do
would.
you want to
I-
give them the ability to rank their satisfaction, and do you want them to explain?
I think it should be yes or no with a place to explain.
Okay.
I haven't gone to a meeting recently where somebody hasn't said, can you speak up?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Right.
I mean, we should catalog.
What is the average age of people who live in this town?
Well, I can tell you as being someone who, like, to participate remotely in your meeting, I can hear you, and almost no one else.
There you
It's
go.
because you're coming in on the phone
You're
right
coming
there.
in on the phone, and I can hear you, and I can sort of hear you. I can't hear you.
I know.
I
That's good or
can't.
bad?
Come on.
I
You know the answer
can't-
to that question.
But that's also another component, not
I
just-
can't see
there's no
anybody. I
training
can
for
see
anybody at
you.
meetings.
Oh my God, you
Speak
can
into the
see me.
microphone.
Yeah, it is
can't
not an
s-
ideal setup.
I can't
camera,
see
right?
anyone
That's-
else.
When we established that protocol, it was like a super reactive moment when we shut down. We're like, all right, how can we make this work? And it worked temporarily. I don't think we ever thought like this would be,
My
a long-term
question-
investment would be needed.
My question is that because of Mashpee TV that you're limited in the way you can do this?
Yes, it
Yes, it is. When it's recorded, there's incredible feedback that gets produced.
Okay.
But you can do it, because Yarmouth broadcasts
Yeah.
on local cable TV
And they
and
do
does
it.
that whole Zoom setup that you were talking about.
It's just that there's a technical limitation, whereas the feed, like whatever is happening, and I don't know what it is, creates
Yeah.
a massive feedback loop.
But they did, they had to buy new equipment.
And the
Yarmouth had
other-
to buy new equipment to make it happen.
And actually, the other problem is if you're watching it from home sometimes, like, sometimes I don't feel like coming to like the select board meeting,
Sure.
and all of a sudden, you know, something big is gonna happen, and then it goes black. Sometimes it goes right in the middle.
Gotcha.
You're waiting to hear what the verb is, and it's
Right.
gone. Oh,
That's another part of being virtual when I zoom in. There are these long pauses of like 3 to 5 seconds where the sound shuts off. I don't hear anything.
Right.
I know
Wow.
you're still talking because it's like mid-sentence. And I miss.
You do a very good job of seemingly understanding what's going on.
Read slips.
She smiles and nods.
You know how many things have been accomplished during that?
Those 3 to 5 seconds, yeah. I spend a lot of time when I'm doing it, and I'm like, I do this because when you can't hear things, like your normal reaction is to like lean in, but I have an
Yeah.
earpiece in, so that doesn't help at all. But that's like your normal reaction is to what? But yeah, it's quite difficult
It is.
to be part of what you're doing because I do know that I am missing certain things that people are saying, and those gaps of seconds or breaking
Well,
up
that's
the
now your honorary
conversation.
seat. You can come anytime you want.
Thank you.
We'll reserve that seat for you.
I think if people didn't get discouraged, if they could tune on the Channel 18 at home and watch these meetings and see it and hear it, I think they might get interested. But when the sound is like zzzz, and you're trying to listen in between, it's terrible.
Okay,
So that's a yes, no, not sure, please explain.
yep.
And then
The last one is, do you feel public meetings should be broadcast, do you feel that all public meetings should be broadcast and recorded?
I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a no with the town, because that would cost a lot of money. And I don't know what the viewership is.
Pretty slim. Pretty slim. I watch most of our meetings or other meetings because I'm here.
So should we say more, instead of all, should we say more?
Yeah, maybe,
Okay,
maybe.
More public meetings.
Like, you have any specific ones that you think should
Affordable
definitely?
housing.
Affordable
I've asked for it
housing.
for like
The
years.
big issue, one of the
For
second big.
years. Every time that contract comes up in Mashpee TV, I get up there in public comment. I'm like, can we add affordable housing committee? And I get shot down every year. Okay.
all right, and then you added a question about the select board and council have reconvened meetings. Are there any services or facilities that the town and tribe could share? Do you just want that as a fill in the blank?
Yep, fill in.
All right, transportation. Unless you have more.
Transportation, I just have an overall question about, I
I
want to
know, huh?
somehow fit a parking question in here.
Okay,
So what happens with our parking down here on the Cape is that we build our parking to be, to fit like the maximum people that come here. And then most of the year, those parking lots are empty.
Everybody does that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Parking
not-
standards in general are
we always
built
over-provide for
on,
parking.
are built on parking minimums. So minimum requirements are usually designed per, number of bedrooms or the square footage or the gross floor area or whatever, the mechanism is. And they're generally geared towards those parking extremes. Like, Walmart wants enough parking for Christmas Day or, the day before.
Friday.
Black Friday. And it almost never gets used, but that's what they want. So,
Sorry.
But
I
we
keep trying to
we
jump in.
we do special permits, and one of the reasons why we still have special permits, even though there's kind of like an emphasis to go to by right zoning, one of the reasons why we have special permits is to see if we can, work those things about the parking.
I think I'm hesitant to ask a parking question if it's related to like adequacy of parking, because everyone who answers that question is going to think of the one day they couldn't find a parking
Yeah.
spot in
Okay.
Mashpee Commons, and they're going to say we don't have enough.
Okay.
When
People
a
in
clear best
general-
practice for like building housing or affordable housing more feasible is reducing your parking requirements.
Okay.
people in general are really parking sensitive. Like if I can't find a space within, 18 steps of the front door, then you don't have enough parking.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's not realistic.
I'm gonna take back that suggestion.
People are very passionate about parking.
Yeah,
Especially in this
particularly
community,
with the limited mobility of many senior citizens here, they want it with 18 steps of the building.
Can I interject a parking question or?
Is it about the
propos-
post office?
No. That, and I raised this, I wrote a 3-page letter to Buff Chase, first time he came up with his charrettes and stuff like that, 4 or 5 years ago, about parking. He said, in the off-season, you have parking adequate to, in excess of what you really need. Can you make it pervious parking? Would you like to see more pervious parking spaces to handle stormwater runoff, and things like that? And they never got back to me. But, if you have a parking lot that's only going to be used 3 months out of the year, if it was pervious, basically grass growing through it.
Right.
And you mow it, and you don't have to fix all the cracks in it every couple of years. Maybe the town would like more pervious,
Yep.
to handle stormwater runoff and things like that, soak it right into the ground, less impervious surfaces.
Yep.
What if we had a test center, like a test area, where you laid pervious, is it asphalt?
Well, the town hall
No,
keeps
no,
considering
you
expanding
have
parking to the
mats.
rear of the building. Maybe the town hall.
Go way
could be a
back,
test
yeah,
case,
they're in the woods back there.
You know?
They have mats
See how it works.
that will support the weight of cars, and it's full of holes. It's a mat that's.
The grass
full-
goes.
And the grass goes through it. And from away from the parking lot, at ground level, you look, you just see beautiful lawn. And it's level, there's no bumps or anything in it.
Do you cut the grass?
You cut the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have on the golf courses too. on
Do you
the
need to
bottom.
All
fertilize
right?
it?
Never
I-
seen
Yeah,
it.
they have that, yep.
Yeah, do you?
There's a building in Yarmouth.
We did
That's
some
like
in
that.
here years ago.
Yeah.
Rob, do you know if you have to fertilize it?
No, don't.
Serious,
No, you don't.
because the water sits up there.
It just,
It
it,
sits
it,
down,
it's- it just, the grass just grows. It-
Goes in, and everything
Sometimes
just
we-
goes into the natural ground underneath.
Sometimes it's required so that the fire department can get their truck in.
Right.
Yeah.
How expensive is it relative to,
I haven't priced it out.
Well, it's gonna be relatively inexpensive because all it is.
But with issues of groundwater.
Well, it's like this, it's like this
runoff,
concrete mesh. It's like,
Yeah,
it's like a lattice.
right.
And
It's
the
concrete
concrete,
mesh?
it's like these tiles that they just put
Yeah,
in.
they could put in tiles, or
They
they
have
could
tiles
get
or mats or
industrial
whatever.
mats.
Yeah.
which
I believe
now
they have
keeps it together.
they have to deal with the substrate underneath it
Yep.
too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the water would sit if it's not well-drained soil. So
It is,
they
yeah.
you have to go
Yeah, you have
down
to fix.
further,
Yeah,
put
you
the
gotta have it.
substrate base underneath it, and then you put this on top of it, and and it gives the opportunity.
So it can't be on sand, it has to be.
It's
good
engineered.
loam.
It's
It's a-
engineered.
It's engineered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's engineered, but, all right. So I have.
Sounds good.
Question 4, sidewalks and connections, maybe sidewalks and crosswalks
Where are you?
on transportation number 4. I
Okay.
want to put in crosswalks. So sometimes we have sidewalks, but not crosswalks.
Yeah, connections are vague. Crosswalks, people know what they are.
Sidewalks and crosswalks, you
Yeah.
want?
And I just wanted to also note, just in question 1, because we had discussed separating out
Yes.
traffic congestion into 2 separate tiers, asking about congestion off-season and traffic congestion
Oh,
during the
good.
summer. So I wanted to make sure there's a level of comfort with you about
Yes.
how I broke that down, or if we need to change the wording or anything, but we felt people would respond very differently about congestion in July as
than
opposed to they would in February.
December.
Right, yep.
Very good.
And I just see a typo in there, actually, it says Memorial Day.
Got it.
All right, so back to 4. I think the question should be indicate how important these are to Mashpee. Very important, important, somewhat important.
Did
See, if
you
you,
want to add?
right now, if you say, do you want to see more of these in
Okay.
Mashpee? Everybody will just say yes, 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 yes,
So you want
yes.
to say indicate how important,
Are the following
To Mashpee.
to Mashpee? What about bus shelters?
But yeah, safe bus stops.
so hold on, I gotta move these over.
Like, we wonder if that lady on Asher's Path East might not have gotten killed had there been a,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
sure
we need
the
yeah,
facts on that, but
we need,
it was not a proper place.
so, right, so I was thinking 2 bullets, safe bus stops, next bullet, bus shelters, but should we combine that? Let's put it, safe bus stops and bus shelters? Or
I'd
keep
put
it
'em
separate? Separate, okay.
Whatever, that's good.
You know that nice bus shelter down by Dunkin' Donuts in Falmouth?
Yes,
I think past Davisville Road. They're
I-
kind of pricey, but,
I bet Dunk's put that in as part of the approval process.
oh, they did. It's memorializing somebody who worked there.
Oh,
Okay?
Number 5, you have write-in on map. So or map pin. I think most people could describe it in words, but it's up to you.
It's a write-in or a map.
I think on the online
So-
version, a map pin would be good, and on the paper version, assuming we have one, it would be a good write-in. We could
Okay.
do it both ways. I don't know.
Yep, as long as it's technologically feasible.
Under question 4, yeah, you move on so fast, and I read.
Sorry.
Would you like more EV charging stations, towers?
It's on there,
It is?
second to last bullet.
Look at you two are.
Oh, you got to go to the next page.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
I know, you could miss it easily.
Maybe we should bump it up. Maybe we should bump up the EV charging stations to be like, right after public transportation or something
Sure.
like that. Or right after parking.
Listen, right now, there's 5% EVs out there. In 5 years, there'll be 20% of EVs out there.
All right.
But there's no charging, I was the only one, they asked the question after the presentations of all
Yeah.
EVs, and says, how many own an EV car? And it was about half a dozen. And after this presentation, how many will replace or the next car will be EV? And everybody raised their hand, except me. I thought they were going to come back and said, why are you the only one that won't consider
Yeah.
an EV? I said, there's no charging stations around. But I learned a lot about Tesla. They tell you where the charging station is, which ones you should go to bring your car. It's high-tech.
It's stressful. If you're worried, you're running out of
Yeah,
electricity, and where's the next charge? I got to get to that charging.
yeah. So it's way too early for me to
Me too.
cut out the gas.
All right, so we have a comment from Evan about deleting a question.
Which one?
It says delete either 7 or 8, same question.
I gotta put myself
7 or
back
8.
in this moment from when I reviewed it.
What you want to delete?
It's gonna,
I have a question, well, it's like, a beach shuttle. What's that?
so what it would do, instead of people driving their car down to the beach and parking
Where they
there?
gonna park? Mashpee Commons not gonna let them park there. The industrial park, Roach Brothers, I mean, a beach shuttle to where? I mean, there's no place to park.
The-
I like the idea
Yeah,
that unless the town has a parking space that the
Reserved.
shuttle could take them to.
well, when we were at Southport, people talked about having a shuttle to shop.
Well, Southport, because that's a community in itself, kinda. They could have a shuttle,
They could.
but they won't let me go and park in Southport and take the shuttle to the beach.
So I do know, I realize the limitation there, but I think because it was brought up frequently at the workshops, that you gotta ask the question, and then if it ranks high, then you figure out how to deal with it.
So we have trolley and beach shuttle.
I think the trolley is something that people read from the
Even that don't work
1998
from the
document, and they're like,
short
oh, we should have a trolley. You know?
It's very
You
nostalgic.
know, it's like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I think the answer to, I think
looks
those
nice,
questions are
though.
important because it's the age of the population, and eventually, if you get enough people that want it, you'll find a place to park.
Yeah.
Could we add shopping? Could we do beach/shopping shuttle?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Because Southport, the ladies were talking about shopping.
Yeah.
They wanted to all get on the shuttle together.
Well,
That's what the trolley's for.
like I said
Oh.
before, like when Mashpee Commons coming here, I asked her to have a shuttle service. So the people that live behind the church get in the bus to go to Roach Brothers and stop and shop
Like a
instead of
loop.
driving their car.
Yep.
Because if I live behind the church in the winter, I'm not gonna walk to the grocery
yeah.
store. I'm gonna get in my car, go to the
I'd love
grocery
to have
We're
a
almost
shuttle. I'd
done
love to
here,
have a shuttle
folks.
pick
We're
me up.
close. Come on.
We're on the last page.
About my comment, I think I'm gonna walk it back a little bit. I think you can ask both questions. I think I was just noting that one, they're asking the same thing essentially, but one is specific, one is more general, but I think you can leave them if you wanna leave them. I'm gonna dial the comment back a little bit.
So what are you going to be, you going to rewrite these questions?
Well, now, number 4 says very important, somewhat important. Do you know what I mean?
It does.
So I think you
You
can
could probably
combine
get
8
rid
with
of-
4.
I think you can just,
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
that's
yeah.
a good idea, man.
Why don't you just double check that all the items are in there? Either,
we generalize in the one above, well, no.
Well, you could say for 4, which of the following, if any, would you like to see more of in Mashpee to address the related mobility or transportation issues? Too wordy?
I don't care. You want to keep it in, I don't care.
Yeah, why not?
Because that's it.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
I think everyone should have 2 or 3 friends they want to farm this out to,
Yep.
and see how they answer it and what they have to say.
We got it?
I'm good if you're good.
Okay.
Good if they're good.
What's the latest these meetings have ever gone, do you know?
Well, let me tell you something
We've
first.
had a few to midnight, I think, in my
Did
time.
the local cops heads the plan the first time. We used to go to 1 o'clock in the morning. Then we made a bylaw, after 11 o'clock, we have to vote on to continue the meeting. And I was sitting there thinking, this is just like we first did it. It kept on going and going. And I made the motion to do that because I was working in Boston. I left here at 1 o'clock, 1:30, and I was
And
starting
no
work at
sleep.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
On the big dig. And it was killing me, you know?
Sure.
You fell asleep on the train and ended up in Fitchburg.
Well, yeah.
Fun fact, though, when
All
I
right.
first started here in 2018, we got out late at like, I don't know, midnight or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that the cleaning crews had come in yet because I was still very new and I left my keys in my office and they locked me out of my office. So I had to sit here. I was sleeping on the sticker counter, waiting for the DPW guy to show up to let me into my office so I could go home. Lesson learned. I always carry my keys now during board meetings.
And don't sleep on the train.
You don't have a hydrant or
All right, so, real quick, workshops and focus groups.
Oh, we're continuing.
August 3rd, we did not hold business coffee hour this morning. I just didn't have the opportunity to do good communications for it, so I'm going to look towards the middle of the month, probably the week of like August 17th, around the same time as your next meeting. I have discussed this with the chamber. In addition to like their normal conventional, their newsletter and emails from them, I was hoping to identify like direct contacts to businesses, but if that's the very least we can rely on, that's fine, and I'll look towards that week to schedule it. On August 7th was the initial date proposed for us to be at the tribal council. That got pushed to the 14th and then the 21st, and until eventually none of the August dates are working, so they have slated us for September 11th. I am unfortunately on a family vacation that week and will not be able to be present, but we would like to make sure we hit that opportunity. So I've discussed it with Mary, a little bit of the intention for the day. Ashley has said that she is available to assist you with that, Mary.
Blake is also
But
coming.
Jake,
And Blake is
Sunday,
also coming.
September 11th, it's a 2 o'clock. And, right, all right, so we have 3 people. So we need volunteers that day.
So between now and like the
We'll
end.
hire you if you want to do it. All right, good, excellent. So now I have 4.
I've been mentally thinking about how I'd like to, run this workshop, and I've shared those thoughts with Mary and a little bit with Ashley. So I just want to give some thought, since I'm not going to be there. I'll continue communicating with the chair and with Ashley and Blake on my thoughts in that regard.
Yeah, I think you can give us something in writing for the next meeting, and then we'll just run with it.
And then virtual workshops, still need to identify dates, but I'm still working with the schools. I'll get draft communications materials over to the superintendent for their review to go home in backpacks in the first weeks of school. And then additionally, they have open houses in the first couple weeks of school. One of which, there's 3. I will miss one of them because I'm on vacation.
Oh, that's a
But
good idea.
It'd be another opportunity to like directly engage with parents, say like, why this is important to participate in.
But
So
we
I
might
think
have the survey.
We'd have the survey available, and then so,
We might want to keep, even though you're not going to be here,
oh, someone else could be there.
We could pass out the survey.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so in kind of consideration of those events, I was thinking that school-age children workshop should be closer to the end of the month of September, because then we'll have the beginning of the school, open houses to like really hammer it home and solidify the date and the program with the school and with Ashley.
Perfect.
So that's kind of where that stands.
I'd like to table all of the items on the agenda. There's no objection from anyone?
I'd like to
Unless-
make a motion that we adjourn.
Did you have anything else, Evan, you wanted to announce?
No, thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thanks, everybody.
Sleepless.
I don't know, you guys have more energy than me. It's 9 o'clock.